Across the windswept deserts of Egypt, deep beneath the dense jungles of Central America, and hidden within the icy reaches of the Arctic, lie secrets that have withstood the relentless march of time. Artifacts carved with precision that seems impossible, structures aligned with the stars in ways that defy our understanding, and civilizations whose sudden disappearance leaves more questions than answers. For centuries, these enigmas have whispered to those who seek them, offering glimpses of knowledge. And yet, the truth remains elusive. What force shaped these ancient monuments with such mastery? Who were the architects of symbols that continue to baffle modern science? And how did societies vanish, leaving only fragments of a story we may never fully grasp? From unexplained ruins to baffling artifacts, the world is scattered with mysteries that challenge our very understanding of history. Tonight, we journey into the shadows of the past, peeling back layers of time to confront the unknown. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into 3 hours of unsolved archaeological mysteries the world still can't explain. Nestled quietly in the arid Soup Valley of northern Peru, the Caral ruins emerge from the desert like a silent sentinel of an era long forgotten. From a distance, the landscape appears unremarkable, rolling hills of ochre and sand stretching toward the horizon. But as you approach, the earth itself seems to whisper hints of a civilization that thrived more than 5,000 years ago. Here, massive pyramidal structures rise with geometric precision, their terraces carved into the soil with a care that suggests a sophisticated understanding of architecture and urban planning. Stone circles, sunken plazas, and elongated mounds hint at a society that was not merely surviving, but innovating, creating, and perhaps even contemplating the cosmos. Caral is widely regarded as the cradle of civilization in the Americas, predating the great cities of the Inca by millennia. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of organized social structures, early trade networks, and surprisingly advanced agricultural techniques, including the cultivation of cotton, squash, and guava. Llama remains, intricate quipu-like recording devices, and the presence of flutes and other musical instruments point to a culture that valued both utility and the arts. Yet, for all that we can discern, vast questions remain. How did this society, seemingly thriving and sophisticated, vanish without leaving a clear trail for those who came after? What caused its decline, and why does its story linger only in fragments? The precision of Caral's construction is particularly perplexing. The pyramids align with startling accuracy to solar and lunar events, suggesting that its builders observed the skies with extraordinary care. Could this indicate an early form of astronomy, or was it tied to religious and ceremonial practices that we can only speculate about? The materials used, carefully quarried stones and sun-dried bricks, demonstrate a mastery of techniques that would be repeated, refined, or sometimes forgotten by subsequent cultures. And yet, unlike the Egyptians or Mesopotamians, there are no written records to explain the motivations, beliefs, or daily life of the people who built these monumental structures. Their silence is as profound as the pyramids themselves. Even the urban planning evokes questions. Streets, residential areas, and ceremonial spaces suggest a community that understood both social hierarchy and the necessity of public design. Terraces for agriculture sit alongside plazas for gathering, while irrigation channels hint at knowledge of sustainable water management in a challenging environment. But how was such coordination achieved without a written language? Some researchers propose that oral traditions, symbolic carvings, or musical communication could have played a role, yet these remain hypotheses, unprovable and tantalizing in their mystery. Then there are the artifacts. Simple yet sophisticated flutes, intricately knotted cords reminiscent of quipu, and figurines of humans and animals provide glimpses into the culture's daily rituals and spiritual life. Yet, the function of many of these objects is still debated. Were they ceremonial, practical, or perhaps both? The discovery of these items raises questions not only about the people who made them, but also about the degree to which we can ever fully interpret their intentions. Speculative theories have emerged, as they often do when confronted with enigmas this ancient. Some have suggested Caral may have been a hub of spiritual enlightenment, an early city where social cohesion and ritual practice shaped human understanding of time and space. Others wonder whether its sudden disappearance was linked to environmental changes, shifts in river courses, soil depletion, or climate fluctuations that undermined the delicate balance sustaining the society. Could external pressures, such as conflict with neighboring groups, have contributed? Or was the decline a slow fading into obscurity that left no direct record? These questions persist, unanswered, hovering like the desert winds over the ruins themselves. Walking among the sun-baked stones, one senses an almost deliberate attempt at permanence. The shapes of the pyramids, the measured lines of the terraces, the alignment with the rising and setting sun, all suggest intention, purpose, and vision. Yet, there is a paradox. A civilization that achieved so much has left so little tangible evidence for us to grasp fully. Archaeologists can measure, map, and analyze, but they cannot ask the builders themselves why they made these choices. That absence, the inability to hear the human voice behind the stones, is what imbues Caral with its quiet, haunting mystery. Even the surrounding landscape adds layers to the enigma. The Soup River, still flowing centuries after the city's decline, may have been the lifeblood of the civilization, supplying water for crops, trade, and daily life. But subtle traces suggest the environment may have shifted. River courses changed, soils eroded, and yet Caral endured long enough to create structures that rival later civilizations in scale and sophistication. Was this resilience a testament to ingenuity, or merely a fleeting balance that could not withstand the forces of nature? What is perhaps most compelling about Caral is its reminder of human potential. Without metal tools, wheels, or written language, this society constructed a complex urban center that influenced generations to come, yet remains largely anonymous in our historical record. The puzzles it presents are not just architectural. They are cultural, spiritual, and existential. How does a civilization thrive, create, and disappear, leaving only whispers of its brilliance for us to decipher? As the sun dips below the horizon and casts long shadows across the pyramids, the Caral ruins stand both as evidence of human achievement and as an enduring question. What secrets lie still buried beneath the terraces and plazas? How much more could we learn if new discoveries were unearthed tomorrow? The answers remain out of reach, lingering in the dry wind and the quiet stones, waiting for those willing to search. As we leave the ancient terraces of Caral behind, our journey through the mysteries of the past brings us to the highlands of Peru, where the rugged landscape rises sharply toward the sky. Here, near the small village of Sayhuite, sits an enigmatic monolith carved with a complexity that seems almost otherworldly. At first glance, the Sayhuite stone appears as a simple boulder, worn by centuries of wind and rain, yet a closer inspection reveals a labyrinth of channels, ponds, terraces, and depressions etched meticulously into its surface. Every groove, every indentation seems deliberate, yet its purpose remains a puzzle that continues to baffle archaeologists, engineers, and historians alike. The stone stretches over 1,200 square feet, an expanse that allows the eye to wander across what looks like a miniature landscape frozen in stone. Some observers see what could be irrigation systems, perhaps an ancient hydraulic model used to plan or demonstrate the management of water. Others note the resemblance to topographical maps, complete with what appear to be rivers, hills, and reservoirs, suggesting a level of abstraction and sophistication that would be remarkable even by modern standards. How could the creators have envisioned such intricate designs without written blueprints or conventional surveying tools? And for what exact purpose was it intended? Practical, ceremonial, educational, or something entirely beyond our understanding? Archaeologists suggest the Sayhuite stone may have been a scale model for water distribution, an instructional tool for managing the highland terraces that supported agriculture in the Andean regions. Indeed, the Incas were known for their ingenuity in engineering and irrigation, and the highlands demanded innovative solutions to cultivate crops in steep, uneven terrain. Yet, unlike the meticulously documented aqueducts and canals found elsewhere, this stone remains a silent enigma. Its patterns are irregular in ways that defy simple explanation. Some channels twist and curve without apparent purpose, while some depressions seem too deep or too shallow to function as effective water conduits. Even the craftsmanship itself sparks wonder. The stone was carved with precision that suggests not only technical skill but also an intimate understanding of the material. The grooves are smooth, the angles deliberate, the layout cohesive, as if the entire rock were a canvas meant to convey a message that is just beyond our comprehension. How did the artisans achieve such detail without metal tools capable of shaping stone so uniformly? And why would they choose to create a model in stone rather than a more impermanent material, if indeed its purpose was practical? Speculative theories abound. Some researchers have proposed that the Sayhuite stone may have served a sacred or ritualistic function, a symbolic representation of the Andean landscape through which spiritual energies flowed. Could the channels have been used to conduct ceremonial liquids, or to demonstrate the flow of water as a metaphor for life itself? Others have suggested that it may have been a teaching tool, a tactile way for local leaders to instruct communities on complex irrigation techniques, or even a form of proto-cartography, capturing knowledge that was vital to survival in the high-altitude environment. Yet no inscriptions or accompanying records have been found to confirm any theory. The context of the site adds another layer of mystery. Sayhuite lies at an elevation of over 3,000 meters, surrounded by steep hills and deep valleys. The stone itself sits in an open area that catches sunlight for much of the day, illuminating the intricate carvings in patterns that shift as the sun moves across the sky. Was this placement intentional, chosen to highlight the carvings at specific times, or simply a matter of convenience? Some scholars have noted alignments with nearby water sources, hinting that the model may have been linked to actual irrigation projects, though no definitive connections have been established. Visitors to the Sayhuite stone often find themselves struck not just by its scale or complexity, but by the sense that it embodies a knowledge lost to time. The Incas and the civilizations that preceded them achieved feats in agriculture, architecture, and astronomy that continue to inspire awe. Yet here, in this single carved rock, the boundaries between utility, art, and mystery blur. The stone challenges us to imagine a mind capable of visualizing landscapes in miniature, of abstracting the natural world into a coherent, functional, or symbolic model, and then executing it with extraordinary skill. The stone also raises broader questions about the transmission of knowledge in ancient societies. How was such understanding communicated, preserved, and applied without writing systems comparable to those of Mesopotamia or Egypt? Did the Sayhuite stone represent a repository of collective memory, a teaching tool for successive generations, or a sacred object whose meaning was known only to a select few? And if it was indeed practical, how did its lessons influence the construction of canals, terraces, and settlements throughout the Andes? As shadows lengthen across the highlands and the sun dips behind distant peaks, the Sayhuite stone stands in quiet testimony to ingenuity, patience, and imagination. It is both familiar and alien, a landscape captured in miniature, a puzzle carved in stone. Scholars continue to measure, map, and theorize, yet the essence of its purpose remains elusive, tantalizingly out of reach. Each channel and depression invites questions, and each unanswered question beckons us to consider the depth of knowledge ancient civilizations possessed. Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is how this stone, weathered and exposed for centuries, has retained the clarity of its carvings and the complexity of its design. What stories did it convey to those who first walked the highlands? What lessons did it hold, and who were the keepers of its secrets? As we trace the grooves with our eyes, imagining water flowing through the channels or ritual offerings moving along the carved paths, the Sayhuite stone resists our desire for certainty, reminding us that some knowledge may always lie just beyond our grasp. Here, amid the quiet wind and the rugged mountains of Peru, the stone whispers a question that echoes across the centuries. How much of the past remains hidden in plain sight, carved in ways we are only beginning to understand? And as we continue this journey through unsolved archaeological mysteries, one thing becomes clear. The line between the known and the unknowable is narrower than we imagine, and the world still holds secrets waiting to be revealed. From the rugged highlands of Peru, where the Sayhuite stone stands as a testament to ingenuity and enigma, our exploration shifts to a quieter, more intimate type of mystery, one carved in the solemn faces of ancient scribes. Across museums and temple ruins in Egypt, hundreds of life-sized statues depict seated figures, often portrayed with scrolls, pens, and a posture of careful attention. These are the scribes, keepers of knowledge, chroniclers of history, and intermediaries between the human and the divine. Their serene expressions and poised forms convey an air of calm precision. Yet beneath their composed surfaces lies a secret that has puzzled scholars for decades. Sealed compartments, hidden chambers within the very statues themselves, whose purpose remains uncertain. The first glimpse of these compartments is subtle. To the untrained eye, a scribe statue is solid stone, carved meticulously from limestone, granite, or alabaster. Yet, careful examination and modern scanning techniques have revealed cavities, hollows, and concealed spaces built into the torsos, bases, and even heads of these figures. In some instances, tiny plugs or stoppers appear to conceal the openings, as if the creators intended for these chambers to remain undiscovered for centuries. Why were these compartments created? Were they functional, symbolic, or perhaps both? And what secrets did they hold? Documents, amulets, offerings, or something entirely unknown? Archaeologists suggest several practical explanations. Some argue that the compartments may have served as receptacles for ritual objects, sacred items meant to empower the statue or protect the tomb in which it was placed. Others speculate that they might have held scrolls or papyri containing texts that were either ceremonial, administrative, or esoteric in nature. Yet, very few of these chambers have been opened or examined thoroughly, leaving much to speculation. The careful placement and careful sealing of the compartments imply intentionality, an understanding that these spaces were meant to endure beyond the lives of their creators, a message preserved in silence. The craftsmanship of the statues adds to the mystery. Each figure is carefully proportioned, with attention to posture, expression, and the fine detailing of clothing, writing instruments, and inscriptions. To carve a hidden compartment within such precise forms would have required not only technical skill but foresight, planning, and a profound understanding of both stone and symbolism. Some chambers are surprisingly intricate, with multiple layers, false walls, and miniature passageways. Was this a display of artisanship, a form of coded communication, or perhaps a means of safeguarding the sacred knowledge entrusted to the scribes. Speculative theories abound. Some researchers propose that the compartments may have been designed to house messages to the afterlife, a conduit for prayers or guidance intended for gods or spirits. Others suggest that these hidden spaces might have contained early forms of libraries, small repositories of knowledge intended only for the initiated or for future generations. Could it be possible that within these solid stone figures, entire worlds of information remain undiscovered, waiting for the right key to unlock them? And if so, what would we learn about the minds, beliefs, and priorities of the ancient Egyptians, who placed such care into concealing these chambers? Beyond the practical and ceremonial explanations, there is a profound symbolic resonance in the idea of hidden spaces within these statues. Scribes were themselves intermediaries, bridging the gap between human events and divine order. Perhaps the compartments reflect this duality, a visible form outwardly recording the known world, while the hidden space within holds mysteries beyond human comprehension. Could the act of sealing these chambers have been an expression of control over knowledge, a way to protect it from misuse, or a ritual gesture acknowledging the limits of mortal understanding? Modern technology has brought new perspectives to the investigation. Non-invasive scanning, 3D imaging, and even ground-penetrating radar have revealed compartments without risking damage to the ancient stone. Yet even with these tools, certainty remains elusive. Some chambers appear empty, others contain fragments of material that may once have been organic, and a few suggest the presence of objects that cannot yet be identified. Each discovery raises more questions than it answers, highlighting both the ingenuity of the sculptors and the gaps in our knowledge. The locations of these statues also deepen the mystery. Many are found in tombs, temples, and ceremonial complexes, contexts imbued with religious and cultural significance. In these settings, the scribe becomes more than a figure of record-keeping. They are a guardian of sacred knowledge, a witness to both life and death. Was the hidden compartment a practical tool, a talismanic object, or a form of esoteric communication intended for gods, priests, or the deceased? The overlap between art, religion, and secrecy blurs the line between the tangible and the symbolic, leaving us to wonder what ancient eyes may have seen and what ancient hands chose to conceal. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of these hidden chambers is their ability to remind us of the limits of our understanding. The statues themselves are silent, their expressions calm and eternal, yet they speak in subtle whispers of human intention, ambition, and reverence. We see the precision of the carvings, the placement of hands and tools, the lifelike proportions. But behind it all lies a puzzle intentionally left unresolved. What drove the creators to embed secrets within stone, to preserve knowledge in ways that could withstand centuries of decay and human curiosity? And what might still remain undiscovered, hidden within the hearts of these stone scribes? As we stand before these figures, tracing the contours of carefully sculpted faces and imagining the hands that carved them millennia ago, the mystery remains potent. Each chamber, each sealed cavity, invites reflection on the human desire to preserve, to protect, and to communicate across the ages. What truths, what stories, what wisdom lies hidden within these seemingly solid forms? The sealed compartments of scribe statues offer a quiet but persistent challenge, reminding us that history is not always fully accessible, and that even the most familiar forms can contain enigmas that endure through time. In the end, the scribe statues sit in their silent vigilance, guardians of secrets we may never fully unravel. They call on us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to appreciate the depths of thought and intent that went into their creation. And as we continue our journey through unsolved historical mysteries, one question lingers. What other messages, preserved in stone or hidden in plain sight, remain undiscovered, waiting for those who dare to search. From the silent guardians of stone in ancient Egypt, our journey now carries us across time and geography to the riverbanks of prehistoric Britain, where one of the most exquisite and puzzling artifacts of the Iron Age first emerged. The Battersea Shield, as it is known, is more than a piece of metal. It is a work of art, a puzzle, and a symbol of a culture that has left tantalizing traces but no full narrative. Though some examples survive in museum collections, accounts suggest that a version, long considered lost, vanished under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind only fragments of its story and a lingering sense of wonder. The shield is remarkable in its design. Forged from thin sheets of bronze, it is adorned with swirling, intricate patterns inlaid with red enamel, forming concentric circles, spirals, and abstract motifs that seem almost hypnotic. Every detail appears intentional, a visual language that speaks of skill, patience, and symbolic purpose. The metal itself, though delicate in appearance, would have been a formidable object in the hands of its owner, combining artistry with utility. One can imagine the shield not only as protection in battle, but as a ceremonial object meant to convey status, identity, or spiritual power. The Battersea Shield was discovered in the River Thames, submerged in mud and water for centuries, an offering perhaps, or a deliberate act of concealment. Such deposits were not uncommon in the Bronze and Iron Ages, and archaeologists suggest that rivers were often used as sacred spaces where valuable objects were returned to the gods. Yet the question remains, why this shield, and why in this particular location? Was it lost in conflict, or placed intentionally as part of a ritual whose meaning is now obscured? The absence of written records leaves these questions unanswered, leaving us to interpret intent from the artifact itself. The shield's craftsmanship invites even more intrigue. Its surface bears no visible rivets or fasteners for decoration. The patterns were likely etched and inlaid with precision that would challenge even contemporary metalworkers. The spirals and motifs evoke imagery that may reference natural forms, cosmological symbols, or abstract representations of power. Could the designs encode information, perhaps a symbolic map, clan insignia, or a record of heroic deeds? Some researchers propose that these motifs were intended to invoke protection or magical potency, linking the physical shield with spiritual defense. And yet, without direct testimony from the people who made it, these remain informed speculations, tantalizing but unresolved. The lost version of the Battersea Shield adds another layer to its mystery. Historical accounts and early sketches hint at a nearly identical piece, described as even more elaborate, but its current whereabouts are unknown. Some believe it was misplaced, stolen, or destroyed. Others speculate that it may still lie hidden in a private collection, or even beneath layers of sediment somewhere along the Thames. The idea of an artifact, so finely wrought and yet invisible to modern eyes, conjures both excitement and frustration. How much of history might remain hidden just beyond our reach, waiting for chance, discovery, or accident to bring it back into view? Speculative theories surrounding the shield go beyond its artistry. Some historians suggest that the shield could have served as a diplomatic gift, a ceremonial offering intended to cement alliances or assert dominance. Others propose a ritualistic function, linked to fertility, war, or spiritual protection. Could it have been a symbol of personal prestige or a collective emblem for a tribe or community? The river, the patterns, and even the precise materials used all suggest intention. But what that intention was remains opaque. Even the conditions of its recovery contribute to its enigmatic aura. Found submerged, partially corroded yet astonishingly preserved in detail, the Battersea Shield challenges assumptions about the fragility of history. It survived water, mud, and time, only to vanish again, prompting questions about how objects move through human hands, societies, and natural forces. The river itself becomes part of the narrative, an accomplice in both preservation and mystery. Was the shield abandoned, offered, or lost? And if it was intentionally placed in the river, what did the act signify to the people who made and used it? Beyond the artifact, the shield reflects the society that produced it. Iron Age. Britain was a world of tribal networks, ritual practices, and emerging craftsmanship that balanced functional skill with symbolic meaning. Shields were not merely defensive. They were statements, objects that communicated identity, status, and allegiance. The Battersea shield, with its intricate ornamentation, elevates this function, transforming a martial object into a work of enduring beauty and mystery. How many more artifacts like it have been lost to rivers, soil, or time, leaving only shadows and speculation for modern researchers? Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Battersea shield is the interplay between visibility and disappearance. Its design draws the eye, its artistry invites study, yet the physical object itself, or at least certain versions, remains elusive. What we can observe sparks curiosity, but what we cannot see stretches the imagination. Is the lost shield merely misplaced, or was its disappearance intentional, a deliberate act to control knowledge, power, or symbolism? Could it lie buried somewhere in the sediment, waiting for discovery, or has it slipped entirely from the threads of history, leaving only traces in sketches, accounts, and memory? Standing before images or surviving examples of the shield, one feels the passage of time condensed into a single object. The grooves of bronze, the swirls of enamel, and the delicate precision of its creation evoke the hands and minds of people long gone, yet whose intentions still resonate. The shield's journey, from creation to deposition to recovery to disappearance, reminds us that history is not static. It is alive in the questions we ask, in the fragments that survive, and in the mysteries that endure. The Battersea shield, lost yet remembered, ornate yet functional, tangible yet elusive, leaves us with a profound meditation. How much of human ingenuity remains hidden, not destroyed, but simply waiting for the right moment to resurface? What messages, intentions, or knowledge were encoded in objects now vanished from view? And as we continue to trace the echoes of the past, one truth becomes clear. The line between what we know and what we can only imagine is narrower than we realize, and some secrets may remain suspended in time, waiting for those who dare to seek them. From the banks of the Thames, where the lost Battersea shield whispers of vanished craftsmanship and hidden stories, our journey moves southward to the Iberian Peninsula, where the rolling plains of Andalusia conceal one of Europe's most enigmatic prehistoric structures, the Dolmen de Soto. Rising quietly from the earth near the town of Trigueros, the dolmen presents itself as a deceptively simple formation, a series of massive, weathered stones arranged in a corridor that leads into darkness. At first glance, it may seem merely a tomb, an ancient burial chamber built by Neolithic hands. Yet as one approaches, the scale, precision, and subtle complexities of the structure reveal that this is far more than a grave. It is a monument suffused with mystery, intent, and unanswered questions. The dolmen stretches nearly 20 meters in length, formed by carefully placed megaliths that create a narrow passage leading to a central chamber. Some stones bear faint carvings, grooves, spirals, and concentric patterns that speak of symbolic meaning, yet defy easy interpretation. Archaeologists have noted that the alignment of the corridor with the winter solstice is striking. For a few brief minutes each year, sunlight penetrates the entrance and illuminates the inner chamber, casting long shadows and bathing the space in golden light. Was this merely a reflection of astronomical observation, or did it carry deeper ritual significance? Could the builders have intended the dolmen to act as a bridge between the living world and forces beyond human understanding? Evidence indicates that Dolmen de Soto was more than a burial site. Excavations have uncovered human remains, flint tools, pottery fragments, and ornaments, suggesting that the space functioned as a ceremonial hub for the community. Yet the manner in which these items were arranged and the architectural choices of the dolmen itself raise perplexing questions. The chamber is both enclosed and expansive, intimate and monumental, offering no simple explanation for the combination of practical and symbolic functions. How did Neolithic builders, without modern tools, transport and lift these enormous stones with such precision? What guided their selection of location, orientation, and layout? The carvings etched into the stones amplify the mystery. Some resemble stylized representations of human figures or abstract symbols, while others hint at astronomical or calendrical knowledge. Scholars have debated whether these motifs were purely decorative, ritualistic, or functional, perhaps encoding information about time, lineage, or cosmology. Could the dolmen itself have been a kind of prehistoric observatory, a way to track seasons and celestial events? Or were the carvings an integral part of rites performed within the chamber, their meaning known only to the community that created them? Speculative theories have emerged, as they often do when faced with structures of such age and sophistication. Some researchers suggest that the Dolmen de Soto may have been part of a larger network of megalithic monuments across Iberia, functioning as a symbolic map, a spiritual grid, or even a conduit of collective memory. Others propose that the alignment with the solstice was intentionally designed to mark transitions, births, deaths, and cycles of agricultural life, blending the practical and the metaphysical. Could this structure have been a site of initiation, a sacred space where knowledge and tradition were transmitted to select members of the community? The construction itself is a marvel. Each megalith is carefully shaped and positioned, with slight slopes and angles that create a cohesive, enduring corridor. The central chamber is framed by stones weighing several tons, yet their placement conveys a subtle elegance, as if the builders understood balance, proportion, and durability in ways that continue to surprise modern engineers. How much knowledge, skill, and experimentation went into this creation? And why, after millennia, does the structure remain so intact, resisting the erosion and upheaval that time brings? Even the surrounding landscape seems to whisper secrets. Rolling fields stretch toward the horizon, punctuated by small hills and occasional watercourses. Yet the dolmen occupies a precise location that feels deliberate rather than arbitrary. Was the site chosen for practical reasons, proximity to settlements or resources, or for spiritual resonance, perhaps marking a connection with natural features imbued with meaning? Could the very act of placing massive stones in this specific arrangement have been a ritual in itself, a statement of human intent imposed upon the landscape? Walking through the corridor, one cannot help but sense the presence of those who came before. The narrow passage amplifies sound, creating a quiet resonance that transforms footsteps into echoes, as if the stones themselves remember voices long silenced. The chamber at the end, dimly lit even in daylight, offers a space for reflection, for contemplation of the lives, beliefs, and ingenuity of Neolithic people. And yet, despite centuries of study, so much remains unknown. Were there ceremonies we cannot reconstruct, messages we cannot decode, or functions that elude modern understanding? The Dolmen de Soto, like many megalithic structures, sits at the intersection of the known and the unknown. It is at once tangible, a construction of stone, earth, and human hands, and enigmatic, imbued with layers of meaning that resist definitive explanation. Archaeologists can measure, date, and map the site, yet they cannot access the intentions, beliefs, or rituals of those who first shaped it. How much knowledge was encoded in the orientation, the carvings, and the placement of each stone? And how much of that knowledge has been lost to time, leaving only a silent testimony carved into the landscape? Perhaps the greatest allure of Dolmen de Soto lies in its ability to evoke both wonder and humility. It reminds us that human ingenuity, creativity, and spirituality have existed far longer than written history can confirm. It challenges us to consider the ways in which prehistoric people understood the world, structured their communities, and connected with forces beyond the visible. And it compels us to acknowledge the limits of our comprehension, to accept that some mysteries are meant to endure, quietly waiting for those willing to observe, question, and imagine. As the sun shifts and shadows stretch along the corridor, the dolmen stands in stillness, a silent witness to millennia of human presence and curiosity. Every stone, every groove, every faint carving invites contemplation. What ceremonies took place here? What knowledge was preserved in silence? And what secrets might still lie hidden beneath the earth, waiting for discovery? The Dolmen de Soto offers no answers, only a quiet, persistent question. How much of our past remains concealed, and what can we learn if we continue to search with care, patience, and wonder? From the silent corridors of Dolmen de Soto, where sunlight once illuminated hidden chambers, our journey now moves across continents and centuries to the jungles and cities of Mesoamerica, where one of the most enigmatic relics of the ancient Maya survives, the Dresden Codex. Unlike monumental stone structures, the Codex is fragile and delicate, its pages made of bark paper coated with lime and folded like an accordion. Its surface is alive with vibrant illustrations, intricate glyphs, and complex tables that seem almost impossibly sophisticated. Despite its fragility, it has endured the ravages of time, conquest, and neglect, offering a rare window into a civilization whose knowledge was vast, precise, and deeply intertwined with the cosmos. The Dresden Codex is widely regarded as the most complete of the surviving Maya codices, yet it is far from fully understood. Its pages contain detailed astronomical tables tracking the movements of Venus, lunar cycles, eclipses, and other celestial phenomena. The precision of these observations is staggering. Calculations accurate to hours, predictions spanning decades, and records that reveal an understanding of planetary cycles far beyond what one might expect from a pre-Columbian culture. How did the Maya develop such advanced astronomical knowledge without telescopes or modern instruments? And how did they encode it so meticulously in symbols, charts, and pictorial narratives that remain only partially decipherable today? The Codex is more than a technical manual. It is a tapestry of ritual, myth, and cosmology. Scenes depict gods, ceremonies, and human actors engaged in acts whose meanings are layered and complex. Certain pages are dominated by intricate sequences of glyphs, whose interpretation continues to challenge linguists and epigraphers. Scholars have proposed that some sections describe agricultural cycles. Others focus on prophecy or divination, yet gaps remain. Could the Codex also contain esoteric knowledge, intended only for a select priestly class, a secret record of events, or a guide for aligning human action with cosmic order? The uncertainty is part of its enduring allure. The story of the Dresden Codex itself adds another layer of mystery. It survived the widespread destruction of Maya texts during the Spanish conquest, hidden or smuggled away from burning temples and libraries. Eventually, it found its way to Europe, where it was preserved in Dresden, Germany, its current home. How many other codices were lost to fire, decay, or deliberate destruction, carrying with them knowledge that might have deepened our understanding of the Maya? And what fragments of understanding do we still miss, obscured by centuries of absence? Even the illustrations provoke questions. Gods with jaguar heads, serpentine bodies, and intricate headdresses appear alongside glyphs that are only partially decipherable. Scenes of ritual sacrifice, offerings, and cosmic events suggest a worldview in which the divine and the human were intertwined, yet the precise logic of these connections is elusive. Could the Codex have been used as a teaching tool, a calendrical guide, or a prophetic manuscript? Or does it serve a purpose beyond our comprehension, encoding patterns, cycles, and warnings that were meant to guide society in ways we can barely imagine? Speculative interpretations abound, reflecting both the richness of the text and the limits of our understanding. Some researchers propose that the Dresden Codex contains predictive knowledge, calculations meant to anticipate celestial events, agricultural cycles, and even political upheavals. Others suggest it may contain esoteric wisdom, spiritual guidance encoded in symbols, or a form of early mathematics that links time, ritual, and the natural world. Could it even contain fragments of forgotten science, principles observed in nature that were too subtle or abstract to survive elsewhere? Each hypothesis illuminates a facet of Maya culture, yet none can claim complete certainty. The Codex also highlights the Maya mastery of abstraction. Complex numerical notations, tables, and glyphs convey vast amounts of information in a compact space, requiring both memorization and interpretation. To modern eyes, the Codex appears dense, even cryptic, yet to the scribes and priests who produced it, it may have been a practical, essential tool. How did they transmit this knowledge across generations without losing precision? How did they balance artistry, spirituality, and mathematics in a single manuscript? The answers remain elusive, buried in the folds of the bark paper and the logic of an ancient mind. Even its physical condition adds intrigue. The Codex is fragile, the pages brittle, the colors fading yet remarkably preserved. Its survival is nothing short of miraculous, a testament to human effort, chance, and perhaps careful guardianship over centuries. Yet its fragility also ensures that much of it cannot be fully examined without risk. Could hidden markings or faded details still lie undetected, offering insights that modern technology has yet to uncover? And if so, what might these reveal about Maya society, cosmology, and understanding of the universe? Standing before the Codex, whether in facsimile or through photographs, one feels a direct connection to a civilization that thrived thousands of years ago, whose gaze was fixed both on the earth and the heavens. The patterns, symbols, and sequences invite us to consider how humans, across time and space, have sought to understand cycles, measure existence, and align themselves with forces larger than themselves. And yet, the Codex resists full comprehension. Every page answered seems to raise a dozen more questions, every deciphered glyph revealing gaps in understanding. The Dresden Codex reminds us of the fragility and resilience of knowledge. It survived where so much else was destroyed, preserving a glimpse of thought, observation, and ritual from a world that might otherwise have vanished entirely. And still, its mysteries endure. How much knowledge have we lost? What meanings were fully understood only by those who created it? And what truths about the Maya, their science, their spirituality, and their view of the cosmos remain hidden in plain sight, waiting for discovery? In the end, the Dresden Codex is more than a manuscript. It is a bridge across time. It carries the whispers of priests, astronomers, and scribes who observed, calculated, and recorded in ways that continue to challenge our assumptions. It invites us to contemplate the scope of human curiosity, the persistence of knowledge, and the mysteries that endure despite millennia of study. And as we turn the imagined pages, one question persists. What other secrets of the ancient Maya, carefully folded and encoded, have yet to reveal themselves to the world? From the jungles of Mesoamerica and the delicate pages of the Dresden Codex, where ancient knowledge and celestial observation intersect, our journey now takes us across oceans and centuries to a quiet corner of North America, where one of the most perplexing and controversial archaeological finds emerged: the Dorchester Pot. Unlike monumental structures or ancient manuscripts, this artifact is unassuming in size and shape. A small iron pot, roughly the size of a modern flower pot, unearthed in the late 19th century in Dorchester, Massachusetts. And yet, despite its humble appearance, it has challenged our understanding of history, geology, and human capability. The Dorchester Pot was discovered embedded in a layer of solid rock several feet below the surface during the excavation of a well in 1852. Its position suggested it had been encased in stone for thousands, perhaps even millions of years, a detail that immediately sparked debate. How could an object clearly shaped and forged by human hands end up trapped in formations thought to predate any known civilization in North America? To the eye, the pot is simple and functional, with smooth walls, a rounded base, and a faintly ornamented rim. Yet its context is what elevates it from a curiosity to a profound enigma. Early reports emphasized the apparent impossibility of its discovery. The surrounding rock appeared naturally formed, without any signs of human alteration. Geologists of the era were divided. Some suggested the rock formed around the pot slowly, perhaps through sedimentation processes. Others argued that the encasement could not have happened naturally. Modern analysis remains inconclusive. Was the pot an ancient artifact trapped by an extraordinary geological accident? Or is there something about the formation of the surrounding stone that we still fail to fully understand? The pot's origin is equally mysterious. It bears no inscriptions, maker's marks, or stylistic indicators linking it definitively to a known culture. Its iron composition suggests some metallurgical knowledge, but it is not ornate, nor does it resemble typical tools or vessels from nearby colonial or indigenous contexts. Could it have been a utilitarian object, lost or discarded long before the excavation? Or might it represent something far older, a remnant of a civilization whose presence in North America predates accepted archaeological timelines? The lack of corroborating artifacts in the vicinity only deepens the mystery. Speculative theories abound. Some researchers have suggested that the Dorchester Pot could be evidence of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, implying that groups with metallurgical skills reached North America long before historical records indicate. Others propose that it may have been an unusual example of natural geological mimicry, a formation that resembles human work but is entirely coincidental. Fringe ideas, ranging from lost civilizations to unexplained anomalies in time, have been proposed, though none are verifiable. Yet the artifact's very existence demands questions. If the pot was indeed human-made and ancient, what does that imply about the spread of technology, migration, and the preservation of human knowledge? The pot also invites reflection on the nature of evidence and interpretation. How do we reconcile an object that seems clearly manufactured with the geological context that suggests great age? Does the encasement of the pot in rock indicate an extraordinary accident, or a gap in our understanding of sedimentary processes and environmental change? And if the artifact is anomalous, what other traces of ancient ingenuity might be hidden, misclassified, or lost entirely beneath layers of earth and time? Its discovery has inspired both skepticism and fascination. Museum curators, geologists, and historians have debated the Dorchester Pot for over a century, each perspective illuminating different facets of the mystery. The pot's simplicity belies the complexity of the questions it raises. It forces us to consider not only human capability, but also the interplay between artifact and environment, between knowledge and preservation, and between evidence and interpretation. How much do we accept as chronological certainty, and how much might be subject to revision in light of anomalies like this. Even today, the Dorchester Pot occupies a unique place in the study of anomalies. It is neither spectacularly ornate nor enormous in scale, yet it challenges fundamental assumptions about history and archaeology. Its presence in rock that predates known civilizations in the region compels us to ask whether there are gaps in the story of human technological development in North America. How many other artifacts, submerged, buried, or overlooked, might rewrite what we think we know? And what does the pot tell us about the resilience of human-made objects, their capacity to endure, and the stories they can silently convey across centuries? The object's aura is amplified by its absence from widespread public display. Unlike other celebrated artifacts, which are contextualized and studied extensively, the Dorchester Pot remains a quiet anomaly, its existence recorded in reports, sketches, and photographs, but rarely examined firsthand. This distance adds to its enigmatic quality. A small iron pot trapped in time, preserved in a medium that defies conventional understanding, asking questions rather than offering answers. Could there be undiscovered companions to this artifact, scattered elsewhere beneath layers of rock and soil, silently challenging accepted timelines? As we imagine the pot resting within the encasing stone, one cannot help but sense a connection across time, a reminder of how human objects, even the simplest ones, can outlast generations and continue to puzzle, inspire, and provoke inquiry. The Dorchester Pot embodies the tension between what is known and what remains uncertain, between ordinary appearance and extraordinary context. It invites us to confront the limits of our knowledge, to question the assumptions underlying our understanding of history, and to wonder at the hidden complexity of the past. Ultimately, the Dorchester Pot does not yield a clear story. Its unassuming form belies a profound mystery. How it came to rest in rock thought to be impossibly old, what culture created it, and what its presence might reveal about forgotten chapters of human history. And as we trace its outlines in imagination, consider its discovery, and ponder the questions it raises, we are left with a quiet, persistent challenge. What other anomalies, hidden in plain sight or locked in stone, wait for the curiosity, patience, and insight of those willing to seek them? Nestled along the gentle banks of the Danube, where the river winds through what is now modern-day Serbia, lies the remnants of a settlement that has puzzled archaeologists for nearly a century. Vinča. The earth here, layered with the detritus of thousands of years, seems almost to breathe with the memories of those who lived and labored in this Neolithic village. Among the mud brick homes and long-abandoned hearths, scattered like whispers from the past, are the objects that have captured the imagination of historians and mystery seekers alike, the Vinča figurines. At first glance, these small clay figures, often no taller than a few inches, might appear to be simple trinkets or primitive toys. But a closer examination reveals something far more enigmatic. Each figurine is meticulously crafted, its shapes varying from stylized humans with elongated torsos and wide almond-shaped eyes to animals rendered in surprisingly intricate detail. Some figures bear strange incised patterns, seemingly decorative, yet suggestive of a deeper symbolic meaning. The posture of certain human figures, arms folded, heads tilted, hints at ritual, reverence, or perhaps storytelling. These are not mere clay shapes. They are windows into a world we can only begin to imagine. The Vinča culture, flourishing between 5,700 and 4,500 BCE, was astonishingly advanced for its time. Archaeologists have uncovered settlements with sophisticated layouts, including roads, drains, and densely packed homes. Evidence suggests the inhabitants engaged in farming, animal husbandry, and the early production of copper tools. Yet, amid this evidence of everyday life, the figurines stand apart. Why were they made? Were they religious idols, symbols of fertility, teaching tools, or something entirely different? Despite decades of study, no consensus has emerged. Mainstream scholarship generally interprets the Vinča figurines as ritualistic objects. Some argue that their exaggerated sexual features indicate a focus on fertility or goddess worship. Others suggest they could have been used in household rituals or communal ceremonies, acting as talismans to protect the village or ensure bountiful harvests. The recurring motifs, large eyes, small mouths, intricate markings, are thought to convey symbolic meaning, though exactly what that meaning was is lost to time. It is striking how these tiny artifacts, clay hardened by fire thousands of years ago, can communicate something so profoundly human, a desire to reach beyond the ordinary, to engage with forces or ideas invisible to us today. Yet, for all their archaeological context, the Vinča figurines also carry an aura of mystery that invites speculation. Some researchers have noted their striking resemblance to later symbols found across Europe, raising the question of whether they represent a proto-writing system. Could these marks, etched with painstaking care, be an early attempt at conveying complex thought through symbols? The theory is tantalizing, though evidence remains inconclusive. No direct link to a fully developed writing system has been established, yet the possibility lingers, tantalizingly out of reach. Then there are the anomalies that defy easy explanation. Certain figurines possess shapes that appear almost mechanical, or geometric designs that seem too precise to be purely decorative. Some figures are stylized in ways that almost suggest otherworldly proportions or perspectives, unlike anything seen in contemporary Neolithic art. Could these be the product of a highly imaginative mind, or do they hint at a cultural knowledge we no longer possess? These questions have inspired a range of speculative interpretations, from theories of lost advanced knowledge to suggestions of symbolic communication with unseen forces. None are substantiated, and yet each is compelling in its own way. The Vinča site itself adds layers to the enigma. Buried beneath millennia of soil, the settlement reveals a society that was both orderly and complex. Houses were arranged in neat rows. Workshops and communal spaces indicate specialization and organization. The figurines, however, are scattered throughout, sometimes in domestic areas, other times in layers of refuse or burial contexts. Their placement seems deliberate, yet without written records or oral tradition to guide us, we are left to puzzle over the intentions of their creators. Were they meant to be seen by everyone, or were they secret objects, reserved for select individuals or ceremonial purposes? The silence of history deepens the mystery. Even the materials and techniques involved invite wonder. Made from local clay, fired at temperatures that would have required careful control of fire, the figurines demonstrate both artistic skill and technical knowledge. Some exhibit traces of pigments, suggesting they were once painted, bringing color and life to forms that now appear monochromatic and austere. The labor invested in such small objects hints at a society that valued symbolic expression, yet what drove this devotion remains elusive. Was it devotion to a deity, a representation of the human spirit, or a means of recording and preserving cultural memory? As we trace the contours of these figures, questions multiply. Why did the Vinča people stop producing them? Did their knowledge vanish with the culture, or did it transform into something unrecognizable to modern eyes? Across centuries, through war, migration, and environmental change, the original meanings may have been lost, leaving us with fragments and echoes of a world we can only partially reconstruct. And yet, their power endures. There is a quiet magnetism to these figurines, a sense that each gaze into their eyes, each brush against their worn surfaces, is a bridge across time, a connection to human curiosity and imagination that transcends millennia. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Vinča figurines is the tension between the known and the unknowable. Archaeology can tell us where they were found, when they were made, and how they were crafted. It can suggest, with reasonable certainty, what the Vinča people ate, how they built their homes, and how they organized their communities. But it cannot, and perhaps will never, tell us why these small, enigmatic figures were so important. Did they embody spiritual beliefs, cultural codes, or something even stranger? A proto-communication that has been lost to time? Or were they simply the expression of human creativity, playful and profound in equal measure? As we leave the banks of the Danube behind, imagining the lives of those who shaped these figurines, one cannot help but wonder what other secrets remain buried, quietly waiting to be uncovered. The Vinča figurines continue to watch us across the ages, silent witnesses to a story only partly told. They remind us that some mysteries are not meant to be solved quickly or easily, but to be contemplated, slowly and deeply, inviting us to ponder the vast expanse of human history and the hidden depths of imagination that came before us. From the rolling hills and dense forests of Pennsylvania emerges a small, unassuming object, yet one that has captured the fascination of historians and amateur archaeologists alike: the Lenape Stone. Its discovery in the 19th century, in the heart of what had once been Lenape territory, seemed ordinary at first glance. A slab of sandstone, roughly the size of a thick book, unremarkable in its weight and texture. But etched upon its surface are intricate carvings, lines, and figures that hint at a story both ancient and enigmatic, a story that refuses to yield its full meaning to the modern eye. The Lenape Stone is carved with a series of images, the most striking of which depicts a man standing over a creature that appears to resemble a dinosaur. Around this central scene, other figures are etched: trees, humans in various poses, and geometric symbols that suggest intentionality and purpose. The artistry is rudimentary yet deliberate, the lines confident, as if the maker had a clear vision of what they sought to record. For those who first laid eyes on the stone, it was at once captivating and confounding. How could an artifact found in pre-Columbian North America depict a creature long believed extinct? Mainstream historians urge caution. The Lenape Stone was reportedly discovered in 1872 by a farmer named John Whithoft near the banks of the Delaware River. It soon entered local and regional lore, inspiring articles, debates, and sketches that circulated widely. Scholars have approached the stone with skepticism, noting that while its carvings are compelling, there is little verifiable evidence to confirm its age. Could it be a genuine relic of an ancient people attempting to record encounters with creatures now lost to time? Or was it a later creation, influenced by 19th century imagination and folklore, perhaps even a hoax intended to capture attention? Yet even within caution, the stone retains its allure. The figures are not random. They convey narrative, movement, and interaction. The human figure seems engaged in some action, the animal poised with a lifelike stance. Could the creator of this artifact have been recounting a story, perhaps a myth, a legend, or even a memory passed down over generations? The possibility that this carving represents an intersection of observation and imagination is both tantalizing and frustrating. The stone offers a glimpse into a world we cannot fully access, a narrative half hidden within the grain of its sandstone surface. Some theorists have proposed more extraordinary interpretations. If the central figure is indeed a dinosaur or a dinosaur-like creature, what does this suggest about pre-Columbian awareness of prehistoric life? Did the Lenape or neighboring cultures somehow preserve oral traditions of creatures that modern science has only pieced together through fossils? Could the stone be evidence of an alternative history, a lost chapter in human interaction with the natural world? While such ideas remain speculative, they cannot entirely be dismissed, for the stone itself defies simple explanation. Equally intriguing are the circumstances of its discovery and preservation. The stone's provenance is documented in local accounts, yet the trail is inconsistent. Some scholars question the reliability of Wythoft's story, noting that interest in dinosaurs and prehistoric life was surging in the 19th century. Could this context have influenced the creation or interpretation of the stone? And yet, the craftsmanship, the care with which the figures are incised, suggests more than casual curiosity or whimsy. There is intent here, a deliberate act of recording that demands to be considered seriously. Archaeologists have also examined the stone's context in relation to other Lenape artifacts. Pottery, tools, and ceremonial objects reveal a sophisticated culture, rich in symbolism and tradition. Could the Lenape stone have functioned as a teaching tool, a mnemonic device to pass stories across generations? Or might it have been sacred, intended for ritual or spiritual reflection, its imagery meant to evoke memory, warning, or guidance? The answers remain elusive. Each hypothesis brings with it new questions, deepening the sense of mystery that surrounds this small, enigmatic object. Then there are the details that complicate interpretation further. The depictions on the stone appear remarkably detailed for the time and context. The central animal figure displays anatomical features, limbs, tail, posture, that suggest observation rather than imagination alone. How could this level of detail have been achieved if the artist had never seen such a creature alive? Could they have been inspired by fossilized bones, or perhaps by oral accounts passed down through centuries? And if so, what does this reveal about the knowledge systems of the Lenape and their neighbors? These are questions that refuse easy answers, lingering in the shadows of the stone's etched surface. Speculative theories have flourished alongside scholarly caution. Some have suggested that the Lenape stone is a rare record of lost knowledge, a fragment of a prehistoric consciousness that glimpsed creatures long extinct. Others propose that it is a bridge between myth and reality, a cultural artifact that blurs the line between the remembered and the imagined. The stone's enigmatic imagery invites us to wonder whether our understanding of history is as linear and complete as we assume, or whether hidden threads of knowledge preserved in clay, stone, and memory have slipped through the cracks of time. The Lenape stone, much like the lands from which it emerged, remains a testament to human curiosity and creativity. It reminds us that artifacts are not simply remnants of the past. They are active provocations, challenging us to question, interpret, and imagine. As we study its carvings, we are drawn into a dialogue with a culture long gone, one that communicated not through words alone, but through images imbued with meaning, intention, and perhaps even mystery. And so, as the stone sits quietly in museums and private collections, polished yet enigmatic, one cannot help but ponder the story it carries. Did the Lenape, or whoever crafted this artifact, truly witness creatures lost to time? Or were they preserving a narrative whose origins are forever obscured? The stone offers no answers, only questions, and it is precisely in this silence, this space between certainty and speculation, that its power endures. Perhaps, somewhere in the forests and river valleys where the Lenape once walked, other secrets remain buried, waiting for eyes attentive enough to see, for hands patient enough to uncover. The Lenape stone, etched with intent and mystery, leaves us suspended between the known and the unknowable, a reminder that even in places we think we understand, the past can still surprise us, quietly, profoundly, and endlessly. As the morning mist lifts from the glassy waters of Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, a quiet sense of history seems to cling to the shoreline. This lake, sprawling over 44 square miles and dotted with small islands, has long been a place of natural beauty and human activity. Native peoples navigated its waters for centuries, fishing, trading, and telling stories that echo faintly across generations. Yet beneath the tranquil surface lies a puzzle that has baffled researchers and local historians alike: the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. The stone itself is unassuming at first glance, rough, oval, and weighing perhaps a few pounds. But upon closer inspection, its surface reveals something extraordinary: carvings etched with precision and care. The designs are unlike anything commonly found in the region. They depict figures and symbols whose meaning is not immediately apparent. Geometric shapes intersect with abstract forms. Some images suggest animals, while others appear to represent human-like figures in motion. The stone's surface, smoothed by the water over decades, carries the faint patina of age, hinting at centuries of exposure, yet the carvings remain strikingly clear. Discovered along the lake's shoreline in the early 20th century, the stone entered local lore almost immediately. Those who first examined it were struck by its unusual features. Who created these carvings, and why? Scholars have attempted to contextualize the artifact within the region's rich history of Native American settlement. The Abenaki and related Algonquian-speaking peoples were known to inhabit the area, leaving behind stone tools, pottery shards, and ceremonial objects. Could the mystery stone have been part of a ritual, a teaching device, or a form of storytelling? Or does it represent something entirely outside the frameworks we are accustomed to? Mainstream explanations tend to favor practical or cultural interpretations. Some suggest the stone was a ceremonial object, perhaps used in religious rites or as a symbol of territorial boundaries. Others argue it may have functioned as a mnemonic tool, helping to record stories or significant events through imagery. Yet these interpretations, while plausible, cannot fully account for the unusual intricacies of the carvings. Certain shapes seem almost mathematical in their precision, while others suggest motion or action that is difficult to pin down. What was the intention behind these designs, and how did their creators envision their purpose? The stone has also sparked speculation due to elements that appear anomalous. Some observers have pointed out symbols that bear an uncanny resemblance to ancient or even proto-writing forms, though no direct link to known alphabets exists. Could these carvings represent an early form of communication lost to time, a symbolic language whose meaning faded as cultures shifted? Others note that certain figures seem almost otherworldly in proportion or posture, evoking a sense of the uncanny. Were these artistic flourishes imaginative depictions of mythological creatures, or perhaps evidence of encounters long forgotten? The ambiguity invites both scholarly debate and imaginative speculation. Equally compelling is the context of the stone's discovery. Unlike many artifacts unearthed through controlled archaeological digs, the mystery stone was found along the shoreline, possibly displaced from its original resting place. This has led to debates about its provenance and age. Was it created centuries before European contact, or could it have been a more recent creation, inspired by local traditions or external influences? The lack of definitive dating complicates efforts to situate it within a clear historical narrative. Yet, despite these uncertainties, the craftsmanship is undeniable. The lines are deliberate, the composition purposeful, hinting at a mind deeply engaged in conveying meaning. Speculative interpretations have emerged alongside more conventional theories. Some enthusiasts suggest that the stone could be a relic of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, evidence of cultural exchange lost to mainstream history. Others propose that it may encode astronomical or calendrical information, aligning with seasonal changes or celestial events observed by its creators. While these ideas remain unproven, they underscore the stone's capacity to provoke thought. bridging the line between tangible artifact and the mysteries of human imagination. The Mystery Stone also invites reflection on human curiosity itself. Who was the person, or people, who carved it? What stories did they hope to preserve? And how many other objects, perhaps submerged or hidden along the lake's shores, remain undiscovered, silently carrying their own enigmatic messages? Artifacts like this stone remind us that history is not only written in texts or monumental structures, but also in subtle, often overlooked objects, each with the potential to reshape our understanding of the past. As researchers have examined the stone over decades, it continues to defy definitive categorization. Every analysis uncovers new questions: the techniques used, the possible symbolic meanings, the cultural context, even the physical journey the stone may have undergone from its original site to the lake's edge. And yet, no single explanation fully satisfies the mind-seeking closure. Perhaps this is part of the stone's enduring power. It remains a conversation across time, a challenge to modern observers to interpret, imagine, and wonder. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone sits quietly in this tension between the known and the unknown. It is an artifact that speaks of human intention, of creativity and observation, while simultaneously resisting easy explanation. In its smooth contours and carefully etched figures, it carries the faint echo of a story we may never fully hear. And so, as the lake's waters lap gently against the shore, one cannot help but ponder what other secrets lie beneath its surface, or what knowledge may have been carried away, silently preserved in stone, awaiting the careful eyes of those willing to wonder. In the end, the Mystery Stone does not demand answers. It invites reflection. It reminds us that history, like the waters of Lake Winnipesaukee, flows beyond the limits of our comprehension, carrying fragments of memory and imagination that may only reveal themselves to those who pause, observe, and listen to what remains hidden. Amid the sun-scorched hills of Mycenae, in the rugged Peloponnesian landscape of Greece, lies a site that whispers of grandeur and mystery: the ancient citadel of Agamemnon. Excavations here, begun in the late 19th century, revealed a wealth of tombs, walls, and artifacts that spoke of a civilization both sophisticated and enigmatic. Among these discoveries, one object would capture the imagination of the world: a delicate golden visage that seemed to gaze across millennia, calm and yet profoundly stirring. The Mask of Agamemnon. The mask, a thin sheet of beaten gold molded into the features of a human face, is striking in its simplicity and craftsmanship. Its eyes are closed, the lips serene, as if frozen in a timeless expression of dignity or perhaps quiet sorrow. Every contour, the curve of the cheeks, the arch of the eyebrows, the subtle indentation of the eyes, speaks to a skillful hand, an artist intimately familiar with the human form. The mask is small, barely life-sized, yet its presence commands attention, evoking both awe and curiosity. Who was this person, and why was their visage preserved in gold, buried in a tomb that would remain hidden for centuries? The Mask of Agamemnon was unearthed in 1876 by the archaeologist Heinrich Schliemann, who excavated the so-called Grave Circle A at Mycenae. Schliemann, eager to connect his discoveries to Homeric legend, named the mask after the fabled king of the Trojan War. Yet even at the time, his interpretation sparked debate. Could this mask truly belong to the Agamemnon of epic poetry, a figure from the Iliad, or was it simply the funerary mask of an unknown Mycenaean noble? The question lingers still, and perhaps it is precisely this ambiguity that has cemented the mask's enduring allure. Archaeologists have examined the mask in detail, noting that it dates to roughly the 16th century BCE, long before the era in which Homeric tales were written down. This chronological gap raises questions about the relationship between myth and history. Was Homer inspired by a distant cultural memory, Or do the stories of heroes like Agamemnon transcend historical fact entirely? The mask itself provides no answers. It is a silent witness, preserving the face of someone whose identity may be lost forever to time. Beyond its historical dating, the mask invites reflection on Mycenaean funerary practices. Gold masks were used to cover the faces of the deceased, a gesture perhaps meant to honor their status, preserve their likeness, or protect their spirit in the afterlife. Yet few such masks have been discovered, and each carries subtle variations. The craftsmanship of the Mask of Agamemnon is notable for its realism and attention to detail, suggesting that the individual it covered held considerable importance. Was this person a king, a military leader, or a figure of religious significance? Or is the mask less about the individual and more about the collective cultural expression of Mycenaean society? Speculation deepens when one examines the broader context of Grave Circle A, where the mask was found alongside other gold masks, ornate weapons, jewelry, and ceremonial objects. The circle itself, a burial site predating the main citadel, suggests a lineage of powerful individuals, honored and remembered with extraordinary care. Yet the reasons behind such lavish funerary customs remain opaque. Were these objects symbols of earthly wealth, markers of social hierarchy, or offerings meant to accompany the deceased into the afterlife? And if so, what beliefs or rituals guided these choices, now largely lost to us? The Mask of Agamemnon has also inspired more speculative interpretations. Some scholars and enthusiasts have wondered whether the mask might conceal encoded messages, symbolic meanings, or even representations of early artistic ideals about death and immortality. Could the serene expression, frozen in gold, reflect a philosophical or religious conception of the soul, one that the Mycenaeans sought to communicate through art? Others suggest that the mask embodies a universal fascination with preservation and memory, the human desire to be remembered, to transcend the limits of time through material form. While these interpretations cannot be proven, they resonate with the emotional power the mask continues to exert. Complicating matters further is the shadow of controversy surrounding Schliemann himself. His excavation methods, by modern standards, were destructive, and questions about authenticity and attribution have lingered for decades. Did Schliemann's eagerness to connect myth and archaeology shape his interpretation of the mask? Could the mask, as we know it, have been altered or misidentified during the excavation? Even as scholars examine the mask with modern techniques, metallurgical analysis, 3D scanning, and comparative studies, its essential mystery remains intact, resisting definitive conclusions. The Mask of Agamemnon thus occupies a space between history and legend, artifact and symbol. Its golden surface reflects not just light, but the imagination of those who encounter it. It prompts questions about identity, memory, and the human urge to capture something eternal. In a world where so much of the past is fragmented, incomplete, or lost, this mask stands as a rare and hauntingly intimate connection to individuals who lived, loved, and died thousands of years ago. As we linger on the image of the mask, it is impossible not to wonder about the life it represents. Who was the person behind the gold? What events, decisions, and experiences shaped their existence? And why did their society choose to honor them in this enduring form, preserving their face for the ages? Perhaps these questions are not meant to be answered, but to be felt, to provoke reflection on the enduring human desire to leave a mark, to be remembered, and to bridge the vast gulf of time. In the end, the Mask of Agamemnon remains as enigmatic today as it was over a century ago. It invites contemplation, admiration, and speculation. And as the hills of Mycenae continue to catch the shifting light of dawn and dusk, one is reminded that some mysteries persist not because they are unsolvable, but because they are infinitely compelling. Silent witnesses to the lives, stories, and aspirations of people who, like us, sought to endure beyond the limits of their time. In the rolling fields near the small town of Aiud, in the heart of Romania, the earth has long concealed secrets beneath its fertile soil. Farmers tilled the land for generations, unearthing rocks and roots, the ordinary remnants of an ancient landscape. Yet in 1974, something extraordinary emerged from this quiet farmland. A small, metallic wedge lodged inexplicably within a layer of fossilized rock. Known today as the Wedge of Aiud, this object would challenge assumptions, inviting both wonder and skepticism in equal measure. The wedge itself is modest in size, about the length of a human hand, triangular in shape, with one end sharpened and the other blunt. Its composition is equally intriguing. Analyses have shown it to consist of an aluminum alloy, a material familiar to modern industry but seemingly out of place within the geological stratum where it was found. Even more remarkable, the surrounding rock is said to be ancient, containing fossilized remains from the Miocene epoch, a period stretching back millions of years. How could a manufactured object, requiring precise metallurgy, come to be embedded within stone that predates human civilization by such an inconceivable span? The circumstances of the discovery add layers to the enigma. Accounts suggest that local laborers unearthed the wedge while clearing a limestone formation, noting its smooth metallic surface that starkly contrasted with the surrounding stone. It was removed with care and eventually examined by specialists who were baffled. The wedge shows no signs of corrosion typical of ancient metallic objects, and yet it appears naturally fused with the rock around it. Could this fusion be the result of geological processes, or does it hint at an origin that defies conventional timelines? Mainstream interpretations often favor natural explanations. Some scientists suggest that the wedge may be the product of later contamination, that modern metal somehow entered fissures in older rock or became embedded through human activity in recent centuries. Others argue that the aluminum alloy itself could be naturally occurring in certain environments, alloyed under unique geological conditions. Yet none of these explanations fully account for the wedge's precise shape, its apparent symmetry, or the way it seems integrated with the surrounding stone. Each examination only deepens the mystery. Beyond conventional hypotheses, more speculative theories have emerged. Enthusiasts of anomalous history have proposed that the Wedge of Aiud may represent a form of ancient technology, evidence of metallurgical knowledge far beyond what was thought possible for prehistoric cultures. Could it have been part of a tool, a machine, or even a projectile? Some suggest the wedge might be evidence of a lost civilization, one whose technological capabilities far exceeded the scope of known prehistoric cultures. Others posit even more extraordinary notions. Might it be a fragment of extraterrestrial machinery embedded in terrestrial rock long before humans could have forged it? Adding to the intrigue is the wedge's physical composition. Aluminum, while ubiquitous today, is rarely found in pure or usable form without industrial processes. Its extraction and refinement require heat and techniques that were not known to humans until the modern era. This raises further questions about the wedge's provenance. Was it created using unknown ancient methods? Or does it represent a deliberate, manufactured anomaly that somehow found its way into fossilized rock? Could it be that the wedge, like a time capsule, was preserved by forces or events we do not yet understand? The Wedge of Aiud also draws attention because it is part of a broader pattern of similar anomalies discovered around the world. Metallic artifacts embedded in stone or fossilized contexts, often dating to periods far preceding known metallurgy. These discoveries are frequently dismissed by mainstream science as geological curiosities, hoaxes, or misinterpretations. Yet the wedge persists as a tangible object, inviting analysis and speculation, resisting easy categorization. Its existence challenges assumptions about the linear progression of technological development and the completeness of the archaeological record. Equally compelling is the human response to such objects. The Wedge of Aiud has inspired debates among engineers, archaeologists, and amateur researchers alike. Some have attempted to replicate its shape and composition using contemporary techniques, seeking to understand how it could have been made. Others have studied the surrounding rock to determine whether it might have encased the wedge naturally over long periods. Despite these efforts, a definitive explanation remains elusive. Each investigation reinforces the sense that the wedge is both ordinary and extraordinary, an object at once mundane in appearance and profoundly mysterious in context. The wedge's story is also a reminder of the limits of our knowledge. Geological processes, fossilization, and human ingenuity are complex, sometimes yielding results that seem to defy explanation. The more closely we examine the Wedge of Aiud, the more questions emerge. Was it placed intentionally, or did it arrive by chance? Does it reflect the ingenuity of an unknown culture or an extraordinary natural phenomenon? And if it is evidence of technology far ahead of its time, what does that imply about the history we think we know? As we stand at the edge of the excavation site, imagining the moment the wedge first emerged from the earth, it is difficult not to feel a sense of awe. This small metallic object, unremarkable in scale yet astonishing in implication, reminds us that the past is never entirely silent. It speaks in fragments, in anomalies, in the things that refuse to be explained. And it is precisely in this silence that the wedge exerts its power, calling us to question, to investigate, and to imagine. The Wedge of Aiud remains, in the end, unresolved. It exists in the space between science and speculation, between the known and the unknowable. And as the fields of Aiud stretch toward the horizon, we are left to wonder, what other objects lie hidden beneath the surface, preserving secrets of civilizations, technologies, or events that might forever elude our understanding? The wedge offers no answers, only the quiet, enduring invitation to explore the mysteries that remain just beneath our feet. In the quiet corridors of the National Library of Sweden in Stockholm lies a book unlike any other. Towering in its scale, its leather-bound cover worn by centuries of handling, it commands attention simply by its presence. This is the Codex Gigas, a manuscript whose enormity and mystery have inspired fascination and unease in equal measure. Often called the Devil's Bible, the Codex weighs over 75 pounds, stretches nearly 3 feet in height, and contains more than 300 vellum pages, each page carefully inscribed with dense, elegant script. Its sheer size hints at the extraordinary effort, discipline, and perhaps obsession that went into its creation. The origins of the Codex Gigas are as mysterious as its form. It is believed to have been created in the early 13th century in a Benedictine monastery in Bohemia, a region of what is now the Czech Republic. According to legend, the book was the work of a single monk condemned to a life of penance for a grievous sin. Faced with a sentence of death or eternal labor, the monk supposedly vowed to create a book containing all human knowledge in a single night. When dawn approached and the work remained unfinished, the story goes, he made a pact with the devil, who helped him complete the manuscript in exchange for his soul. This tale, dramatic and haunting, has long fueled speculation about the Codex. But beyond the legend, the physical reality of the book raises equally compelling questions. Examining the Codex Gigas, one cannot help but marvel at the consistency and precision of its script. Every page is filled with an even, dark ink, letters meticulously formed and spaced. The manuscript contains the Latin Bible, historical texts, medical writings, and a variety of other treatises. a compendium of contemporary knowledge. Yet it is not only the contents that intrigue scholars, it is the scale of the achievement. Could a single individual, using the tools and techniques of the 13th century, have written such an enormous volume without error, without interruption, and without assistance? Paleographers and historians continue to debate this, noting that even the smallest mistakes are remarkably rare, suggesting a level of dedication and skill that seems almost superhuman. One of the most striking features of the Codex Gigas is a full-page illustration of the devil himself, rendered in vivid detail with dark ink and red accents. The figure's gaze is unsettling, its presence dominating the page, a solitary sentinel in the midst of otherwise scholarly texts. What was the purpose of including this image? Was it a symbolic warning, an artistic flourish, or a reflection of contemporary fears and beliefs? The illustration has become emblematic of the Codex's aura of mystery, reinforcing centuries of legends and inviting speculation that ranges from the spiritual to the supernatural. Beyond its famous image, the Codex contains other unusual features. Some pages display magical formulas, exorcisms, and incantations, while others present medical remedies, calendars, and historical accounts. The juxtaposition of sacred texts with occult content is puzzling. Was this the work of a man attempting to encompass all knowledge, both divine and forbidden? Or does it reflect a broader medieval worldview, in which the boundaries between science, magic, and theology were fluid and intertwined? The Codex, in its entirety, defies categorization, challenging modern assumptions about medieval scholarship and belief. Modern investigations have sought to shed light on the Codex's origins. Radiocarbon dating of the vellum confirms its creation in the early 1200s, and chemical analysis of the ink and pigments suggests the materials were consistent with what was available in Bohemia at the time. Yet while these facts anchor the book in history, they cannot explain the why and the how of its creation. The legend of a single monk completing the entire volume alone continues to capture imaginations, and while historians debate its plausibility, the notion persists because the manuscript itself is almost impossibly consistent. Could the legend contain a kernel of truth, a metaphorical reflection of the dedication and intensity required to produce such a work? Speculative theories surrounding the Codex Gigas extend even further. Some suggest the manuscript may contain hidden codes or messages yet to be deciphered. Could the combination of biblical, historical, and magical texts encode patterns of knowledge lost over centuries? Others propose that the Codex represents an early attempt to create a universal repository of human understanding, a medieval encyclopedia on a scale never before attempted. Whatever the truth, the manuscript's enduring fascination lies in its audacity, its scale, and the tension between the natural and the extraordinary. Equally compelling is the human element of the Codex Gigas. The sheer labor, the patience, the obsessive attention to detail. These speak of a mind consumed by purpose, driven to create something that might endure beyond the bounds of ordinary life. The manuscript embodies both human ambition and the desire for immortality, capturing knowledge, art, and imagination in a single, monumental form. And yet, it is also a symbol of mystery, reminding us that even in the most studied artifacts, there remain elements we cannot fully explain. As one turns its pages today, the Codex Gigas retains a palpable presence. It is a bridge across centuries, connecting modern observers to the minds, fears, and hopes of a distant past. Each line, each drawing, each symbol invites reflection. What compelled its creation? And what truths lie hidden within its ink and vellum? Are the legends of the monk and his pact mere storytelling, or do they preserve a deeper memory of the extraordinary effort required to produce such a volume? In the end, the Codex Gigas resists easy interpretation. It is at once a scholarly treasure, a historical artifact, and a source of enduring mystery. Its enormous scale, its meticulous craftsmanship, and the enigmatic tales that surround it continue to inspire wonder. And as we contemplate the book's pages, we are reminded that some mysteries are not meant to be solved, but to be pondered, silent yet profoundly evocative, waiting for those willing to peer into the depths of history and ask, what else might lie hidden in the ink and shadows of human imagination? In a quiet corner of Baghdad, amid the bustling streets and the timeless flow of the Tigris River, lies a window into a world that existed thousands of years before modern Iraq took shape. Buried in the sands of Mesopotamia, archaeologists unearthed a remarkable artifact, a small clay tablet etched with meticulous precision that would come to be known as the Baghdad Star Map Tablet. At first glance, it is unassuming, roughly the size of a hand, its surface covered in lines and markings that hint at calculation, observation, and careful record-keeping. Yet for all its simplicity, the tablet conceals a profound mystery, one that continues to intrigue historians and astronomers alike. The tablet is engraved with a map of the night sky, featuring star constellations and celestial markers arranged with surprising accuracy. Scholars have identified some of these groupings as representations of known constellations, including Orion and the Pleiades, suggesting that its creator had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy. What is most striking, however, is not simply the depiction of stars, but the implied knowledge of celestial movement and the precision of relative positioning. In an era without telescopes, without modern instruments, the tablet demonstrates a level of observational skill that prompts the question, how advanced were the astronomers of ancient Mesopotamia? Experts date the tablet to the early 1st millennium BCE, during a period when Babylonian scholars were meticulously recording the positions of celestial bodies. Babylonian astronomy is well documented, known for its precision in calculating lunar and solar cycles, eclipses, and planetary movement. Yet the Baghdad Star Map Tablet stands apart, not merely as a record, but as a carefully composed visual representation of the cosmos, suggesting an effort to capture the heavens in a single, tangible form. Could this tablet have functioned as an instructional tool, a guide for priests and astronomers, or even as a symbolic map bridging the heavens and human understanding? Mainstream interpretations lean toward practical explanations. The tablet may have been used for ritual or astrological purposes, helping predict eclipses or chart the paths of planets for agricultural or religious calendars. It could also reflect a pedagogical function, a tool for teaching apprentices the complex patterns of the night sky. Yet even these plausible explanations leave unanswered questions. The tablet's precision, its careful alignment, and the choice of constellations all hint at knowledge that may surpass what was considered typical for the era. Was it simply the work of a dedicated scholar? Or does it suggest a tradition of astronomical expertise far deeper than surviving records indicate? Adding to the intrigue are certain anomalies noted by modern researchers. Some star positions appear slightly shifted from their expected locations, as though the tablet records a moment in the night sky not fully accounted for in historical timelines. Could this indicate an observational error, or does it suggest that the Babylonians may have had access to knowledge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that modern historians did not expect to find until centuries later? If the latter is true, the implications are staggering, hinting at a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics long before the advent of classical astronomy. Speculative theories have also arisen, reflecting humanity's enduring fascination with the heavens. Some have proposed that the tablet might record the path of comets, meteor showers, or even other astronomical phenomena that we have only recently begun to catalog. Could it be a record of a celestial event preserved in clay for posterity? Others suggest that the map may carry symbolic or mystical meaning, encoding religious or cosmological beliefs into a physical form. In a culture where divination and astrology were intertwined with governance and religion, the stars were more than points of light. They were messages, guides, and omens. The Baghdad Star Map Tablet could thus represent a bridge between observation and interpretation, science and belief, the earthly and the divine. Equally compelling is the human effort behind the tablet. Every line, every mark, speaks of patience, concentration, and a desire to understand and preserve knowledge. One can imagine the scribe or astronomer, working by the light of a lamp, carefully plotting the positions of stars night after night, their hand guided by both skill and reverence. In this sense, the tablet is not merely a scientific artifact. It is a testament to human curiosity and the quest to comprehend the cosmos, a physical embodiment of the longing to grasp the vastness of the universe. The Baghdad Star Map Tablet also highlights the gaps in our historical understanding. How many other artifacts, potentially even older or more advanced, were lost to time, buried in the soil of Mesopotamia, or destroyed through centuries of conflict and environmental change? How much of human knowledge has vanished before it could be recorded in enduring form? Each discovery, like this tablet, offers a tantalizing glimpse into the minds of our ancestors, reminding us that history is incomplete and that mysteries often outnumber answers. As scholars continue to study the tablet, its precise origins, intended function, and deeper significance remain uncertain. Yet this uncertainty is part of its enduring power. It connects us to a world of stargazers and scholars who looked up at the same night sky, centuries before telescopes, satellites, or modern science. It invites reflection, urging us to consider how knowledge is gathered, preserved, and interpreted across time. And it leaves us with a quiet, lingering question. What other truths about the cosmos, recorded in clay or stone, remain hidden, waiting for eyes patient enough to see and minds curious enough to wonder? The Baghdad Star Map Tablet, in its small, unassuming form, bridges past and present, science and speculation, observation and imagination. It is a reminder that even in the simplest artifacts, the cosmos itself can speak, if only we are willing to listen, to study, and to ask the questions that history has yet to answer. In the heart of southwestern France, tucked away among rolling hills and dense forests, lies a hidden world that has preserved the whispers of humanity's earliest artists. The caves of Lascaux, discovered in 1940 by a group of local teenagers, reveal an astonishing tableau of life and imagination stretching back nearly 20,000 years. Stepping into the cave is like entering another dimension. The air is cool and damp, the walls rough and echoing, and the flickering contours of the rock seem alive, as though the stone itself remembers the hands that first shaped it. The walls of Lascaux are adorned with hundreds of images, painted in ochres, reds, blacks, and yellows. Majestic horses gallop across stone surfaces. Aurochs, bison, stags, and ibexes dominate vast murals, and enigmatic symbols, dots, lines, and abstract forms punctuate the spaces between these animals. The figures are remarkably dynamic. The animals appear in motion, some depicted from multiple perspectives, others rendered with an anatomical precision that suggests careful observation rather than mere imagination. These images, though silent, convey a vibrancy and intimacy that speak across millennia, leaving modern viewers awestruck. Scholars have long studied the caves, attempting to understand the intentions of the Paleolithic artists. Mainstream interpretations suggest that the images served ritualistic or symbolic purposes. Perhaps they were part of hunting magic, designed to ensure the success of the hunt. Or maybe they represented spiritual beliefs about the interconnectedness of humans and the natural world. Some theorists propose that the caves were sacred spaces, accessible only to select individuals, shamans, elders, or artists, who could interpret or manipulate the unseen forces of their environment. Yet, for all the research, the caves retain an aura of mystery. Why were certain animals chosen for depiction while others are conspicuously absent? Why are the paintings concentrated in the innermost chambers, deep within the darkness where natural light barely penetrates? The placement of images often corresponds to the natural contours of the walls, suggesting an intentional dialogue between rock and art. Could these choices reveal an understanding of acoustics, sightlines, or ritualistic movement within the cave? Or were they purely aesthetic decisions, guided by the flow of the stone and the artist's intuition? Some details of the paintings continue to provoke intrigue. Certain animals are depicted with dots or abstract marks along their bodies. Some researchers suggest these could indicate birth cycles, migration patterns, or symbolic coding, a primitive form of notation. Others propose that they may represent visions or experiences induced during trance states or ritual ceremonies, a way of translating perception and memory into visual form. The ambiguity of these markings makes it difficult to separate practical observation from spiritual or symbolic intent. Adding to the mystery are the so-called signs, abstract symbols interspersed among the animal figures. These signs, varying from simple lines to complex geometric patterns, have no universally agreed-upon meaning. Could they be an early form of proto-writing, a system for recording events or knowledge? Or were they mnemonic devices, visual aids used to pass information orally from generation to generation? The fact that they occur alongside highly detailed animal depictions suggests that they were part of a larger, integrated system of communication, though what that system conveyed is still unknown. The caves also present questions about the artists themselves. Who were these individuals, and what motivated them to undertake such labor-intensive work? Painting deep within the cave required ingenuity. Sources of light had to be carried, pigments prepared, and scaffolding or platforms constructed to reach high surfaces. The process was physically demanding, yet the result is a coherent, expressive body of work. Was this the product of many artists over generations, or a single, sustained vision? The consistency in style across chambers suggests a cultural continuity or shared aesthetic, hinting at social structures that valued artistic expression and the transmission of knowledge. Environmental context adds another layer to the enigma. The caves are positioned within a landscape rich in game and water resources, but their isolation raises questions. They were not mere shelters. Their inner chambers were far from everyday living spaces. This suggests that access was purposeful. The caves themselves possibly regarded as portals to another realm, sacred, liminal, and charged with significance. Some researchers even speculate that the artists exploited the cave's natural acoustics, creating resonance or echoes that enhanced ritual experiences. Could the caves have been places where sound, light, and image combined to produce altered states of perception, a multisensory medium for spiritual or communal practice? The discovery of Lascaux in the 20th century also revealed the fragility of this ancient artistry. Exposure to air, humidity, and human presence caused deterioration of the pigments and the growth of fungi, threatening the survival of the images. Efforts to preserve the caves have been extensive, yet even the modern replication and study cannot fully convey the sensory experience of standing within the original space. The damp stone, the cool darkness, the vast, unbroken continuity of ancient expression. The physical and temporal distance between modern observers and the Paleolithic creators deepens the sense of mystery. What we see today is both a record and a fragment, leaving much of the original context lost to time. Speculative theories continue to flourish, fueled by the sense of awe that the caves inspire. Some suggest that the images may encode astronomical knowledge, with certain animals representing constellations or seasonal cycles. Others propose that the caves were part of initiation rituals, a controlled environment for teaching young members of the group about life, death, and survival. There are even hypotheses connecting the art to shamanic visions or hallucinogenic experiences, with the abstract signs representing altered perceptions of reality. While none of these ideas can be confirmed definitively, they underscore the richness of human imagination and the multiple layers of meaning that might have coexisted in this sacred space. The caves of Lascaux remind us that even the earliest humans were capable of sophisticated thought, aesthetic sensibility, and symbolic communication. Every line etched into the stone, every pigment carefully applied, carries the echo of intention and consciousness. And yet, much remains beyond our understanding. The specific rituals, the cultural context, the personal motivations of the artists, all are largely lost to time. What was their world like, and what did they hope to communicate to future generations? As one gazes upon the murals today, it is impossible not to feel a connection across tens of thousands of years. The horses, bison, and stags seem almost alive, moving silently across the rock as they did in the minds of their creators. The signs and abstract forms whisper of knowledge and meaning that has been partly lost, waiting for interpretation, imagination, or perhaps insight we do not yet possess. The caves are not merely a record of the past. They are a dialogue across time, a testament to the human drive to observe, understand, and express. And so, the caves of Lascaux remain a profound mystery. They are a place of beauty, intellect, and enigma, a repository of questions that may never be fully answered. Were they sanctuaries, schools, or temples? Did they serve the living, the dead, or the unseen? Each visitor, scholar, and observer is drawn into this silent conversation, standing in awe of a world long vanished, but still profoundly present in the stone. The caves invite us to wonder, to imagine, and to recognize that the earliest chapters of human history are not merely written in artifacts and bones. They are painted, etched, and preserved in the very walls of the earth, waiting for those willing to see beyond the surface. Beneath the fertile plains of Sichuan province in China, near the banks of the Min River, lies a site that has reshaped our understanding of ancient civilizations. In 1929, local farmers stumbled upon fragments of bronze, jade, and pottery buried deep in the earth, objects that would eventually be recognized as part of the Sanxingdui Archaeological complex. Among these treasures, the most striking and enigmatic discoveries were the masks, towering, surreal faces cast in bronze with exaggerated features that defy conventional artistic norms. These masks, at once alien and compelling, invite us to peer into a world that flourished over 3,000 years ago, yet remains largely unknown. The masks themselves are breathtaking in scale and craftsmanship. Some measure nearly a meter in height, with wide, staring eyes, elongated noses, and prominent ears. Certain examples feature delicate details inlaid with gold, turquoise, and jade, while others retain the rough, hand-molded texture of molten bronze. They are at once human and otherworldly, their exaggerated forms evoking a sense of power, spirituality, and mystery. Standing before them in a museum, one cannot help but feel as though the eyes of these ancient figures are watching, silently communicating across the centuries. Sanxingdui was uncovered in layers of earth that had preserved these artifacts for millennia. Radiocarbon dating places their creation around 1200 BCE, during the late Shang dynasty period, yet the artistic style is unlike anything previously known from that era. Scholars have noted the divergence from the contemporaneous Chinese Bronze Age art, highlighting the mask's monumental scale, abstract forms, and symbolic exaggeration. This raises a series of questions. Who were the creators of these artifacts, and what cultural or religious practices inspired such unusual expressions? Were these masks intended to honor deities, ancestral spirits, or figures of authority? Mainstream interpretations suggest that the masks played a ritualistic role within Sanxingdui society. Archaeologists propose that they were used in ceremonial contexts, perhaps as representations of gods or spirits, integral to religious rites that governed social and political life. The eyes, often disproportionately large, could symbolize omniscience or spiritual insight, while the ears may reflect heightened perception. Yet these explanations, while plausible, do not account for the sheer diversity and strangeness of the designs. Certain masks display sharp, angular features. Others appear almost grotesque, with twisted forms and alien expressions. What prompted such radical artistic choices, and what meanings did they hold for the people who made them? Adding to the intrigue is the context of their discovery. The masks were found in pits, deliberately buried along with jade figurines, ceremonial objects, and remnants of sacrificial activity. Some scholars speculate that these pits represent ritual decommissioning, an intentional burial of sacred objects to mark the end of a ceremonial era. If so, the act of burial itself becomes part of the story, a deliberate attempt to preserve or conceal knowledge. Why these objects were hidden so carefully, and whether they were meant to be rediscovered millennia later, remains an enduring mystery. The masks also challenge assumptions about technological and artistic sophistication in ancient China. The bronze casting techniques required to create such large, complex forms indicate a high level of metallurgical skill. The alloys used, the uniformity of the casting, and the precision of the details suggest advanced knowledge that may have been unique to the Sanxingdui culture. How was such expertise developed, and why does it appear suddenly with no clear precedent in the surrounding regions? Was Sanxingdui an isolated center of innovation, or part of a broader network of early civilizations whose knowledge has largely been lost? Speculative interpretations abound, reflecting the mask's otherworldly qualities. Some researchers have suggested that the exaggerated features, particularly the large staring eyes, indicate a visionary or shamanistic function, tools for communicating with the spirit world or mediating between the human and divine. Others have posited that the masks could represent mythological beings, ancestors, or even alien figures, a hypothesis fueled by the mask's striking departure from naturalistic forms. While such ideas cannot be proven, they highlight the profound sense of mystery the masks evoke and the challenge of interpreting symbolism from a culture with no surviving written records. Equally fascinating is the broader cultural context of Sanxingdui. The site contains remnants of an urban settlement, sophisticated drainage systems, and evidence of ritualized social practices, suggesting a complex society with hierarchical structures and spiritual institutions. Yet there is a conspicuous absence of continuity. Sanxingdui appears to have flourished, then vanished, leaving few direct links to subsequent Chinese civilizations. Could the masks, with their monumental and unsettling presence, represent a society at the height of its spiritual and artistic expression, abruptly cut off from the broader historical record? And if so, what does this disappearance tell us about the fragility of cultural memory and the mysteries that remain buried beneath the soil? The human response to these artifacts is as revealing as the masks themselves. Standing before them, one cannot ignore the sense of intimacy and awe. The eyes, almost unnervingly large, seem to follow the viewer, creating a connection across millennia. The exaggerated features evoke emotion, suggesting reverence, power, fear, or transcendence. In this sense, the masks are more than objects. They are vessels of experience, encoding a worldview, a spiritual understanding, and an aesthetic sensibility that we can glimpse but never fully inhabit. Preservation of these masks has revealed both their resilience and their vulnerability. Many were buried for millennia, shielded from the elements. Yet centuries of exposure, excavation, and handling threaten their integrity. Despite these challenges, the masks endure, inviting observation, study, and reflection. They are reminders that even in the absence of written records, human expression can survive, offering fragments of knowledge, art, and belief to those willing to engage with them. As we consider the Sanxingdui Masks today, it is impossible not to feel a sense of wonder tinged with uncertainty. Who were the artists who created them, and what did they intend to convey? What beliefs, fears, or aspirations are encoded in the bronze forms, and what do they reveal about a society that has otherwise disappeared from history? The masks speak across the ages, not with words, but with presence and form, challenging us to imagine, to question, and to acknowledge that some mysteries resist resolution. The Sanxingdui Masks remain, ultimately, a portal to the unknown. They invite us to consider the depth of human creativity, the power of ritual, and the fragility of cultural memory. They are a reminder that the past is not always linear, that knowledge and artistry can emerge in unexpected places, and that even after thousands of years, some questions remain unanswered. In the silent gaze of these ancient faces, we are left to wonder, what other secrets lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered, and what stories, still untold, might they reveal about the complexity of human civilization? In the high desert of eastern California, where the rugged Sierra Nevada foothills give way to the arid expanses of the Mojave, the earth is a quiet archive of time. Rocks, sand, and sediment conceal the slow movements of geology, preserving fragments of the distant past. It was here, in 1961, that a discovery was made that would intrigue and perplex those who encountered it. A discovery now known as the Coso Geode. At first glance, it appeared unremarkable. A small, roughly spherical object, encrusted in layers of what seemed to be ordinary rock. Yet, as closer examination revealed, this was no ordinary stone. The Coso Geode is unusual in both composition and structure. Encased within the rocky exterior, a core of unusual materials, metallic and crystalline, lies hidden, suggesting that the object is part geode, part manufactured artifact. When cut open, it reveals a small, elongated cylinder at its center, surrounded by crystalline growth that appears to have formed naturally over time. The juxtaposition of natural mineral formation and precise geometric structure is what has captivated observers for decades. How could such an object, combining elements of both geology and engineering, come to rest in the California desert? The circumstances of the discovery only deepen the mystery. The geode was found by a group of rock and mineral collectors who were searching for common specimens in the dry lake beds near Olancha. The area is known for volcanic activity and rich deposits of quartz and other minerals, yet no natural process seems to account fully for the metallic core at the center of the geode. Laboratory analysis later confirmed that the inner cylinder is composed of a hard, metal-like substance encased within crystalline formations that would typically require thousands, if not millions, of years to develop. This unusual combination sparked immediate curiosity and skepticism. Mainstream geological explanations suggest that the outer crystalline structure could have formed naturally, perhaps through a process of mineral deposition around a fragment of ore or metal. The region is indeed geologically active, with volcanic activity and hydrothermal processes capable of producing unusual mineral formations. Could the object simply be an unusual concretion, a rare geological anomaly amplified by coincidence? While this explanation accounts for some aspects of the geode, it leaves unanswered questions about the precise geometry of the inner core and its apparent resemblance to a manufactured component. Some researchers have noted that the cylindrical core bears features that seem almost intentional: sharp edges, a smooth surface, and uniform proportions that are atypical of natural formations. These characteristics have led to speculation that the object could be man-made, perhaps an artifact of an unknown ancient civilization, or even an unintended consequence of technological experimentation in a forgotten era. If the inner core was crafted, by whom, and for what purpose? And how did it come to be encased within layers of rock that seem to have formed over immense spans of time? The dating of the crystalline growth presents another puzzle. If the geode's exterior developed naturally over thousands of years, the presence of a manufactured object within it implies a temporal dissonance. Could humans, or another intelligent culture, have produced sophisticated metallic objects long before we have any record of metallurgy in the region? Or is it possible that the object was deposited more recently, and geological processes accelerated the formation of the surrounding crystals under unusual conditions? Both scenarios challenge conventional assumptions about the timeline of technological development. Speculative theories about the Coso Geode have proliferated, ranging from the plausible to the extraordinary. Some enthusiasts suggest that the inner core is a fossilized spark plug, perhaps a remnant of advanced technology predating modern engines, implying a lost chapter of human or even extraterrestrial history. Others propose that the object represents a natural geological battery, its internal metals and crystalline structures forming a primitive conductor or capacitor. While these ideas cannot be proven with current evidence, they reflect the compelling intersection of anomaly, imagination, and interpretation that defines the object's allure. Adding to the intrigue is the region itself. The high desert of California is dotted with other unusual artifacts and geological phenomena. Lithic tools from prehistoric peoples, volcanic formations, and mineral deposits that defy easy explanation. The Coso Geode appears almost as a convergence of these elements, bridging natural history and human curiosity. It raises broader questions about the record of human activity and natural processes in the area. How many anomalies remain hidden beneath the soil, their significance waiting to be discovered? How much of what we think we understand about technology, geology, and the history of human innovation is incomplete or misinterpreted? Laboratory examinations of the geode's core have provided further, if inconclusive, information. Spectroscopic analysis indicates a composition primarily of aluminum, with traces of other metals and compounds, but the purity and arrangement of the material are unusual. Aluminum, while abundant today, requires high-temperature processes to refine, processes that were thought to be impossible in antiquity. This raises the possibility that the Coso Geode is not merely a curiosity of geology, but a relic of technological knowledge we do not yet fully comprehend. Could it have been created as part of a sophisticated experiment, or is it evidence of a technological tradition entirely lost to history? Even more provocative is the apparent symmetry and design of the metallic core. Observers note that its smooth surfaces and elongated cylindrical shape are unlike natural formations, yet precise dating and verification remain challenging. Is this the product of ancient craftsmanship, perhaps a tool or component of unknown machinery, now encased in a shell of geological time? Or could it represent a rare, naturally occurring process that mimics human manufacture? A geological coincidence so improbable that it seems designed. The ambiguity of the object is central to its mystery. It resists categorization, defying the boundary between natural and artificial. The human fascination with the Coso Geode is as much about what it represents as what it is. It embodies the tension between the familiar and the unknown, the expected and the extraordinary. Standing before the object in photographs or in private collections, one cannot help but wonder about the hands that shaped it, the forces that buried it, and the epochs it has silently traversed. It is a reminder that the Earth preserves anomalies and secrets, that history may be far more complex and layered than surviving records suggest. The Coso Geode also invites reflection on the limits of human understanding. Can we ever fully determine its origin, or will it remain a tantalizing puzzle, a fragment of a larger story lost to time? Does it hint at forgotten civilizations, unexplored geological phenomena, or even possibilities that stretch beyond conventional science? Every investigation opens new questions, revealing both the depth of the unknown and the persistence of human curiosity. As the desert winds sweep across the Coso Range, whispering through the rocky terrain, the geode sits quietly, unchanged yet provocative, a nexus of wonder and inquiry. Its metallic core, cradled in crystalline growth, continues to challenge assumptions, provoke debate, and invite speculation. It is a silent testament to the vastness of time, the complexity of natural processes, and the enduring human desire to understand the unexplained. And so, the Coso Geode remains an enigma. Whether it is a rare geological phenomenon, a relic of lost technology, or a combination of both, it embodies the unknown in a way that few objects can. It beckons us to look deeper, think harder, and remain humble in the face of mystery. Beneath the sun-scorched plains of California, amid the rocks and sands that have borne witness to millennia, one cannot help but ask, what other secrets lie hidden, waiting patiently to challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of the world? High in the arid plains and ancient valleys of Peru, where the earth bears silent witness to millennia of human history, a remarkable discovery has confounded scientists and historians alike. In burial sites stretching from Paracas to the coastal deserts near Ica, archaeologists have uncovered human remains unlike any seen before. Skulls elongated far beyond the proportions of ordinary human anatomy. These elongated skulls, some nearly twice the length of a typical cranium, immediately capture the imagination, evoking questions about the people who created them, the culture that revered them, and the intentions behind their unusual form. The Peruvian elongated skulls are striking in their appearance. Unlike typical human skulls, these crania are extended at the rear, sometimes tapering into a narrow, elegant point. The bone is thick, remarkably well preserved, and often exhibits unusual cranial sutures and structures. Some skulls are extraordinarily large, with volumes suggesting brains larger than the modern human average, while others show delicate, symmetrical elongation. The eyes appear wide-set, the jawlines robust or subtly refined, and the overall visage evokes a form that is at once human and strangely otherworldly. Standing beside images or casts of these skulls, one is confronted with a direct, almost tangible connection to the distant past, and a profound sense of mystery. Mainstream anthropological interpretations suggest that these skulls were the result of deliberate cranial deformation, a practice documented in multiple ancient cultures around the world. Through the careful binding of infants' heads with cloth or wooden apparatuses, the skull could be molded into elongated shapes over time. Among the Paracas culture, it appears that this practice held social or spiritual significance, perhaps marking status, lineage, or a rite of passage. Radiocarbon dating of the burials places some of these elongated skulls as early as 3000 BCE, suggesting that the practice was widespread and deeply embedded in cultural tradition. Yet, even within this conventional explanation, anomalies remain. Some of the skulls display structural differences that are difficult to attribute solely to binding or deformation. The cranial walls of certain specimens are unusually thick, and the internal bone structure is irregular compared to typical human anatomy. Genetic studies, though limited, have produced results that continue to spark debate. While the majority of DNA samples show markers consistent with native South American populations, a small number of samples contain sequences that are rare, unusual, or difficult to interpret. Could these findings suggest a unique population, a divergent lineage, or simply a variation within the existing gene pool? The cultural and archaeological context of these burials deepens the intrigue. The Paracas people were skilled artisans and seafarers, creating intricate textiles, ceremonial artifacts, and elaborate graves. The elongated skulls are often accompanied by finely woven fabrics, gold ornaments, and carefully arranged grave goods, indicating that the individuals were of high social or spiritual status. The meticulous care in burial practices implies reverence. Yet the reason for the elongation itself remains open to interpretation. Was it purely aesthetic, a visual symbol of authority, wisdom, or divinity? Or did it serve a more profound, perhaps ritualistic or spiritual purpose, connecting the physical form to the metaphysical world? Speculative theories have emerged alongside scientific studies, fueled by the skull's striking otherness. Some enthusiasts suggest that these elongated crania may represent an unknown or hybrid human species, distinct from Homo sapiens, yet contemporaneous with early civilizations. Others posit extraterrestrial involvement, inspired by the unusual anatomy and historical myths of advanced beings visiting the Earth in antiquity. While these ideas are far from mainstream science, they underscore the sense of wonder and the challenge of fully explaining such anomalies. The skulls, in their silent testimony, provoke questions about human evolution, migration, and the breadth of cultural ingenuity. The process of cranial elongation itself also raises intriguing questions. Binding an infant's skull requires both skill and knowledge of human growth patterns, suggesting that the Paracas people, and possibly other cultures practicing similar modification, possessed sophisticated anatomical awareness. Could this practice have been inspired purely by social convention, or was there a deeper symbolic or functional intention, perhaps related to beliefs about intelligence, spirituality, or perception? Some researchers have even suggested that elongation may have influenced the shape of the brain or the development of sensory perception, though this remains speculative and unproven. Moreover, the size and shape of these skulls challenge modern assumptions about human history. Some skulls are so large and structurally robust that they seem disproportionate to ordinary human proportions. How did these individuals function in daily life? Did their physical differences confer any particular abilities or limitations? The answers remain elusive, obscured by the passage of time and the scarcity of contextual records. What we can see, however, is the careful preservation of these individuals by their society, suggesting that their uniqueness was acknowledged and perhaps revered. The Peruvian elongated skulls also invite reflection on the transmission of cultural practices. Cranial modification is not unique to the Paracas. It appears in distant regions, from Africa to Asia, often separated by vast distances and centuries of time. What motivated such a widespread phenomenon? Were these practices independently developed, or could ideas, rituals, or migrations have connected these disparate peoples? The elongated skulls remind us that human societies have long been capable of ingenuity, ritual sophistication, and symbolic thought, leaving traces that both fascinate and perplex us. Equally compelling is the emotional impact of these skulls. Their faces, though deformed by deliberate practice, retain human qualities: eyes, jaws, and expressions that hint at individuality, identity, and humanity. They are not merely artifacts, they are people, once living, once part of complex societies, whose forms and stories are only partially recoverable. The skulls challenge us to bridge the gap between past and present, science and speculation, material evidence and human imagination. As genetic studies and imaging techniques advance, new discoveries continue to emerge, yet fundamental questions remain unanswered. Were the unusual anatomical features purely cultural, or do they reflect a deeper biological difference? Were these people isolated, or part of broader migration patterns? And beyond the scientific facts, what did these elongated forms mean to the societies that created them? Every study seems to generate more questions than answers, reminding us that the past is both accessible and opaque, tangible and elusive. The Peruvian elongated skulls endure as symbols of mystery, evidence of human innovation, and an invitation to wonder. They connect us to the lives, beliefs, and practices of peoples long vanished, yet profoundly present through the remains they left behind. In the silence of the desert, among the textiles, ceramics, and earth-covered graves, one is left to contemplate the scope of human curiosity and the limits of our understanding. They beckon us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to acknowledge that some aspects of our shared past remain tantalizingly beyond our reach. And so, the elongated skulls of Peru continue to fascinate, provoke, and inspire. They are reminders that human history is not linear, that culture and biology can intersect in unexpected ways, and that the Earth holds secrets still waiting to be uncovered. In the end, these extraordinary crania are not merely objects of study. They are windows into a world that challenges our understanding, urging us to ask, what other mysteries lie hidden in the soils, sands, and tombs of the ancient world, waiting to reshape what we think we know about humanity? In the quiet hills near London, Texas, a region of rolling farmland and hidden streams, a discovery was made in 1936 that would quietly perplex scholars and enthusiasts alike for decades. While digging into a rock formation along the banks of a small creek, workers uncovered something wholly unexpected: a hammer, seemingly embedded in stone. At first glance, it appeared ordinary, a small, iron-headed hammer with a wooden handle. Yet the circumstances of its discovery hinted at a puzzle far greater than the object itself, for the hammer was not lying loosely on the ground. It was encased in a concretion of rock, as if nature itself had sealed it away, preserving it for millions of years. The hammer measures approximately 6 inches in length, with a head forged from iron and a handle made of a wood species identified as hickory. Its design is simple, functional, and unmistakably human in origin. Close examination reveals striking craftsmanship. The metal is smelted and shaped with techniques consistent with historical metallurgy. The handle is carefully fitted to the head, and the overall form aligns with tools used in the 19th and 20th centuries. Yet, what makes the London hammer extraordinary is not the tool itself. It is the rock that surrounds it. The encasing rock, a hardened concretion formed around the hammer, has been variously estimated to date back hundreds of thousands, even millions of years, according to some unconventional assessments. Mainstream geologists suggest that the concretion could have formed over centuries, possibly accelerated by mineral deposition and environmental conditions. Yet the apparent age of the stone challenges straightforward explanations. How could a relatively modern tool become embedded in such ancient rock? And if the hammer is recent, how does one account for the extensive mineralization and the way the stone conforms almost perfectly to the shape of the object it encases? The London hammer was initially stored quietly, a curiosity among locals, until it gained attention in the 1970s and 1980s, when metallurgical analysis and photography drew the interest of researchers and the public. X-ray examinations revealed a solid iron core in the head, with mineral deposits filling small cracks and imperfections. The handle, although partially fossilized, retains the structure of wood, indicating that mineral replacement had begun, but not completed the transformation to stone. The juxtaposition of a human-made object and geological processes typically reserved for fossilized specimens invites deep reflection. How could ordinary environmental processes produce such results without significant intervention or extraordinary circumstances? Conventional explanations for the hammer's origins tend to emphasize natural processes and human history. One theory proposes that the hammer is indeed a 19th century tool, possibly dropped or lost by a miner or traveler, and later subjected to mineral-rich water that facilitated rapid concretion. The rock surrounding it could have been formed from sediment accumulation and calcification, giving the appearance of ancient stone. While plausible, this explanation does not fully account for the tight fit of the concretion or the way the minerals seem to grow around the hammer's contours, as if the object had been present during the formation of the rock itself. Speculative theories, naturally, have flourished around the London hammer, fueled by its anomalous context and the striking contrast between tool and stone. Some enthusiasts suggest that the hammer is evidence of advanced humans or civilizations far earlier than conventional archaeology allows. An artifact embedded in a geological timeline that should predate metallurgy. Could this tool have belonged to a lost people, whose knowledge of smelting and forging existed long before recognized historical periods? Others go further, positing that the hammer represents a form of technological anomaly, a remnant of a civilization capable of crafting tools in a distant and forgotten epoch. While these ideas remain outside mainstream acceptance, they highlight the tension between observed fact and interpretation, between evidence and imagination. Adding to the enigma are reports about the rock itself. Some researchers have pointed out that the concretion surrounding the hammer exhibits mineral layers that appear uniform, consistent, and unusually dense, suggesting formation processes that are not easily explained by rapid deposition alone. Could there have been unique environmental conditions in the creek bed, or was this simply a coincidence of geology acting over decades or centuries? The complexity of the concretion, combined with the preservation of the hammer's wooden handle, creates a puzzle that continues to provoke curiosity and debate. The London hammer also raises broader questions about the intersection of human activity and geological time. What does it mean for a man-made object to be found within rock that appears to predate its known era of manufacture? Does it challenge assumptions about the timeline of human innovation? Or does it highlight the limits of our understanding regarding natural mineralization processes? The hammer, in its simplicity, becomes a focal point for contemplating the vast scale of time, the persistence of artifacts, and the mysteries that lie in the interface between human history and geology. Observers are often struck by the hammer's ordinary appearance. There is nothing inherently futuristic or alien about it. The design is functional, practical, and familiar. Yet it is precisely this ordinariness that intensifies the mystery. It is not an object that seems deliberately designed to impress or confound. It is a tool, simple and utilitarian, yet its context renders it extraordinary. The hammer reminds us that even the most mundane objects, when placed within anomalous circumstances, can challenge our understanding of history and provoke profound questions about the passage of time. Furthermore, the human story surrounding the hammer is layered with curiosity and speculation. It prompts reflection on the observers themselves, the miners, workers, and researchers who first encountered it, the scientists who analyzed it, and the enthusiasts who continue to debate its significance. Each perspective adds nuance, reminding us that the interpretation of evidence is as much a cultural and philosophical exercise as it is a scientific one. The hammer serves as a mirror, reflecting our desire to understand, categorize, and reconcile anomalies within a coherent narrative of history. In examining the London hammer, one cannot ignore the broader implications. If the object truly predates its apparent manufacturing era, what does that suggest about our understanding of metallurgy, technology, and human civilization? Are there lost chapters in our collective past, where tools, techniques, and knowledge existed long before recorded history? And if, alternatively, the hammer is a conventional artifact subjected to unusual mineralization, what does that tell us about the power of geological processes to create objects that seem to defy explanation? The hammer, encased in rock, exists at the intersection of certainty and uncertainty, science and speculation, past and present. It challenges observers to reconcile empirical observation with the limitations of established frameworks, to consider both the natural and the anomalous, and to confront the possibility that our understanding of history is incomplete. Every analysis, every study, and every debate underscores the enduring tension between what is known and what is hidden, between tangible evidence and the mysteries it evokes. As we contemplate the London hammer today, its presence remains both provocative and elusive. It is a simple tool, yet it exists as a testament to the persistence of questions that span generations. The iron head and wooden handle are frozen in time, encased in stone, and yet they speak volumes to those willing to look closely. About the ingenuity of humans, the mysteries of geology, and the profound complexity of time itself. And so, the hammer rests in quiet ambiguity, a relic suspended between worlds. It is neither fully explained nor entirely mysterious, occupying a space that invites contemplation, curiosity, and wonder. In the sands and stones of Texas, amid the rivers and hills that have witnessed centuries of change, the London hammer remains a silent challenge to our understanding of history. It is a prompt to ask difficult questions. What other artifacts, hidden or forgotten, might similarly disrupt our assumptions about time, technology, and human achievement? What secrets remain embedded in the earth, waiting to reveal themselves to those patient and curious enough to uncover them? In the end, the London hammer is more than a tool. It is a symbol of the unresolved, a bridge between ordinary objects and extraordinary mysteries. It reminds us that even in a world increasingly defined by knowledge and discovery, some questions resist closure. The hammer endures as an invitation, urging us to look deeper, to question further, and to recognize that history, like stone itself, holds secrets that may never be fully revealed. In the sun-baked plains of Upper Egypt, where the Nile winds its eternal course through desert and fertile land alike, lies a city steeped in history and legend. Abydos, one of the oldest and most sacred sites of ancient Egypt, has long been revered as a center of religious devotion, a burial ground for pharaohs, and a place where the divine touched the mortal world. Its temples and tombs are carved with intricate reliefs, each symbol and image a fragment of a civilization's devotion, ambition, and vision of the cosmos. Among these carvings, in the Temple of Seti I, there exists a set of hieroglyphs that has ignited wonder and debate for decades. Images that, to the modern eye, appear startlingly familiar, shapes resembling modern helicopters, submarines, and aircraft. The Temple of Seti I itself is a masterpiece of craftsmanship. Its walls are covered in detailed carvings and inscriptions, chronicling the achievements of the king, his divine lineage, and the pantheon of gods who guided his reign. It is a place where stone meets story, where every chiseled figure communicates a narrative of power, belief, and cultural memory. Yet amid these conventional depictions, some symbols stand out, seeming to defy temporal expectation. The reliefs show elongated, symmetrical shapes with rotor-like features and streamlined bodies, forms that resemble modern machines rather than ancient tools. The clarity of these shapes, emerging from millennia-old carvings, is at once arresting and disorienting. Mainstream Egyptologists caution against drawing hasty conclusions. The images are often explained as palimpsests, overlapping hieroglyphs where inscriptions carved over older reliefs create ambiguous forms. In this interpretation, The helicopters and aircraft are the result of centuries of plaster filling, erosion, and recarving, producing a coincidental resemblance to modern machines. The original hieroglyphs, intended to record royal titles and sacred names, may have simply merged over time, their outlines blending into shapes that challenge the observer's perception. It is a phenomenon familiar to scholars of ancient art, where human minds are prone to detect patterns, even anachronistic ones, in ambiguous images. Yet, for all the plausible explanations, the Abydos reliefs continue to provoke fascination. The shapes are not isolated. They appear in clusters, interacting with other hieroglyphs, suggesting movement or purpose. Some of the elongated forms seem to hover above the ground line, while others are paired with symbols resembling rotors or wings. The precision of the carvings, their symmetry, and their apparent complexity raise questions. Were these merely artistic coincidences? Or is there a possibility that they encode knowledge beyond what is traditionally attributed to their time? Could the artisans have envisioned mechanical forms, however abstract, centuries before such machines existed? The context of the temple and its carvings adds another layer of intrigue. Seti I ruled Egypt during the 13th century BCE, a period known for military campaigns, architectural innovation, and religious consolidation. The artisans of his court were highly skilled, capable of extraordinary feats of craftsmanship. They had access to vast knowledge inherited from previous dynasties and an understanding of geometry, proportion, and visual storytelling that was advanced for its era. Yet, even with this sophistication, the idea that the reliefs might represent machines beyond their contemporary experience challenges conventional assumptions about ancient technological capability. Some researchers and enthusiasts have speculated that the reliefs could represent knowledge gifted or inspired by advanced visitors, sometimes framed in the context of ancient astronaut theories. In this view, the symbols are not purely coincidental, but deliberate depictions of aircraft or aerial devices observed by the ancient Egyptians. Could there have been technologies lost to history, glimpsed briefly by those whose hands carved the stone? Or do the reliefs encode symbolic concepts, power, ascension, divine movement, in visual forms that happen to resonate with modern mechanical shapes? Further complicating interpretation are the details in the carvings themselves. Certain hieroglyphs appear layered, as though one set of images was carved atop another. Modern analyses reveal ghostly traces of original inscriptions beneath the apparent machines, visible when light grazes the surface at specific angles or when plaster molds are examined. This layering phenomenon can produce optical effects, suggesting shapes and forms that were not intended by the original artist, yet the resemblance to aircraft is striking enough to provoke thought. The ambiguity, combined with the human tendency toward pattern recognition, blurs the line between coincidence and meaning. Yet the mystery of Abydos is not confined to optical illusions or layered carvings. The images invite reflection on the broader cultural and philosophical context of ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were obsessed with the journey of the soul, the ascent to the heavens, and the communication between the mortal and the divine. Could these forms represent abstract concepts of flight, transcendence, or celestial travel rather than literal machines? The idea of objects that soar, hover, or move with purpose above the earth fits seamlessly within their cosmology. Perhaps the reliefs are symbolic, encoding spiritual truths in a language of geometry and metaphor rather than blueprints for machines. What is undeniable is the lasting impact of the reliefs on the imagination. When viewed with modern eyes, they seem eerily prescient, as if someone centuries ago glimpsed the forms of helicopters, airplanes, or spacecraft. This resonance bridges millennia, connecting contemporary observers with artisans who lived in a world without engines, wings, or propellers. The effect is both uncanny and humbling, a reminder that the past can speak to the present in ways that defy straightforward explanation. Adding to the intrigue are the broader implications of the site itself. Abydos is not an isolated relic. It is one node in a vast network of ancient Egyptian religious and ceremonial centers. Across the region, temples, tombs, and monuments convey sophisticated understandings of astronomy, mathematics, and architecture. Could the seemingly anomalous hieroglyphs at Abydos represent a localized experiment in symbolic representation? Or might they hint at broader knowledge encoded across Egypt, waiting to be interpreted? Every investigation, every comparative study, leaves fragments of answers and vast spaces of uncertainty. The debate over the Abydos reliefs underscores a fundamental tension between interpretation and imagination. Scholars urge caution, emphasizing the importance of context, archaeological methodology, and historical precedent. Enthusiasts are captivated by the possibility of anachronistic insight, seeing in the carvings a potential challenge to conventional history. Between these positions lies a space of wonder, a recognition that the past, like the stone itself, can preserve mysteries that are resistant to simple categorization. The carvings remain as silent witnesses to questions that we are only beginning to formulate. As one contemplates the reliefs in person or even in photographs, the effect is unmistakable. The shapes evoke motion, purpose, and design. The images, whether intended as symbolic or mechanical, provoke thought about the limits of human creativity, the sophistication of ancient artisans, and the capacity of civilizations to encode complex ideas in visual form. They remind us that history is not merely a linear accumulation of facts, but a layered tapestry where knowledge, imagination, and belief intersect in unexpected ways. The Abydos helicopter hieroglyphs also invite reflection on the very act of seeing and interpreting the past. How much of what we perceive is shaped by our contemporary perspective? Do we project our modern experiences onto ancient symbols, or are there truths embedded in stone that transcend time and expectation? The carvings are a mirror, reflecting both the ingenuity of the Egyptians and the interpretive lenses we bring to their work. In this dialogue between observer and artifact, meaning remains elusive, yet compelling. Ultimately, the Abydos reliefs persist as a profound enigma. They exist in a liminal space between certainty and speculation, between artistic intention and coincidental resemblance. They remind us that the past is both accessible and opaque, tangible yet resistant to full understanding. They challenge us to consider the capabilities of ancient civilizations, the durability of knowledge, and the limits of our own assumptions. Each viewing invites new questions, deepens existing ones, and illuminates the mystery inherent in human history. As the desert sun sweeps across the temple walls, casting shadows that reveal and conceal the intricate carvings, the reliefs of Abydos remain both familiar and unknowable. They are a testament to human creativity, a puzzle frozen in stone, and a challenge to our understanding of time, technology, and symbolism. And perhaps most importantly, they invite us to wonder, what else lies hidden within the layers of history, waiting for the curious and the patient to discern its message? How many mysteries of ancient civilizations remain, silently preserved, beckoning us to see not just what was, but what might yet be understood? The helicopter-like forms, hovering eternally over the temple walls, continue to captivate and confound. They are more than carvings. They are a dialogue across millennia, a bridge between the known and the unknown, a reminder that history is not static, and that even in the most carefully studied sites, secrets linger. The mystery of Abydos endures, urging us to look closer, think deeper, and remain open to the possibility that the past holds knowledge and wonder far beyond what we can presently comprehend. In the arid silence of the Peruvian desert, where the wind carries only whispers across endless dunes, lies one of the most enigmatic landscapes on Earth, the Nazca region. Here, beneath the relentless sun, the soil has preserved secrets for millennia. secrets etched into the ground as enormous geoglyphs, visible only from the sky. Secrets buried within tombs, where ancient remains have been shielded from the passage of time. And in recent years, secrets that seem to defy both science and imagination. The so-called Nazca Mummies. Discovered not far from the famous Nazca lines, these strange bodies captured the world's attention in the mid-2000s. Unlike typical pre-Columbian burials, the figures that emerged from the sands were startlingly different. Some appeared unusually small, with elongated skulls and long, slender fingers tipped with 3 prominent digits. Their grayish, desiccated forms, wrapped in plaster-like substances, seemed to echo something more out of legend than archaeology. Photographs and videos of the remains circulated quickly, sparking fascination, skepticism, and controversy in equal measure. At first glance, the discovery seemed almost too extraordinary. Peru is no stranger to ancient burials. Its dry climate is well known for preserving mummies in remarkable condition. For centuries, archaeologists have studied the remains of the Nazca, Paracas, and Inca peoples, uncovering sophisticated cultures skilled in textiles, irrigation, and astronomy. Yet these new mummies did not neatly align with established traditions. Their skeletal proportions were unlike those of ordinary humans, and their appearance ignited a wave of speculation. Were these individuals the product of ritual modification? Could they represent a forgotten branch of humanity? Or were they, as some voices whispered, something not entirely of this earth? Scientific institutions quickly took notice. Samples of tissue and bone were analyzed. Some preliminary studies suggested the remains were indeed organic, composed of real biological material. Radiocarbon dating placed some specimens around 1,000 years old, aligning them roughly with the Nazca civilization. But doubts grew just as quickly. Many researchers argued that the mummies bore the hallmarks of modern fabrication. The 3-fingered hands, critics said, could have been assembled from the bones of animals or altered human remains. The plaster encasing, far from an ancient wrapping technique, raised suspicions of recent tampering. This divide created an unusual situation. On one side were independent researchers and alternative historians, convinced the Nazca mummies represented a genuine paradigm-shifting discovery. On the other were mainstream archaeologists warning against what they saw as a carefully crafted hoax. The tension between these perspectives only deepened the mystery. One of the most striking details often noted is the shape of the skulls. Elongated crania have long been associated with ancient South American cultures, particularly in the Paracas region, where deliberate cranial deformation was practiced. Deformation was practiced for ceremonial or aesthetic reasons. Infants' heads were bound with cloth or wooden boards, gradually reshaping the skull over time. Archaeologists have long understood this as a cultural practice rather than evidence of a different species. Could the Nazca mummies simply represent an extreme example of such traditions, distorted further by centuries of natural decay? Or do their proportions suggest something that cannot be explained away so easily? Equally puzzling are the hands. The 3-fingered structure has no known parallel in human anatomy. While some argue the digits could have been surgically altered or artificially constructed, others insist the bone arrangements appear too intricate to dismiss entirely as crude forgery. If authentic, they would point to a physiology unlike any population known to history. But how could such beings have lived, interacted, and ultimately vanished without leaving broader traces in the archaeological record? The setting itself deepens the enigma. The Nazca Desert is home to some of the most puzzling creations of the ancient world. The Nazca Lines. Spanning hundreds of square kilometers, these massive geoglyphs depict animals, plants, and geometric forms only discernible from high above. For decades, their purpose has been debated. Were they ritual pathways, astronomical calendars, or messages to the gods. Some propose that if the Nazca were capable of such immense and mysterious undertakings, perhaps their knowledge and their contact with the unknown extended further than we realize. Yet there is caution in drawing connections too quickly. Archaeologists remind us that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Fabrications and exaggerations have often clouded genuine discoveries. The plaster coating found on some of the mummies does not match traditional burial practices of the Nazca or any other pre-Columbian culture. DNA results remain inconclusive, with some labs reporting anomalies while others find nothing out of the ordinary. Independent verification has been difficult, as Peruvian authorities have expressed concerns over the removal of remains from their original contexts. Without clear provenance, the line between authentic artifact and modern construct becomes blurred. Still, one cannot ignore the psychological power of these figures. Their alien-like appearance strikes a chord deep in the human imagination. They remind us of ancient myths in which gods descended from the sky, of legends told by indigenous peoples of beings who taught knowledge before disappearing into the heavens. They echo themes found in global folklore, the blurred boundary between humanity and the unknown. Are these mummies merely an elaborate trick exploiting our fascination with otherworldly mysteries? Or are they a misunderstood fragment of history, waiting for the right key to unlock their meaning? As with many archaeological puzzles, time itself seems to conspire in silence. The desert keeps its secrets well. Sand buries, wind erases, and memory fades. Whether the Nazca mummies are authentic remnants of a forgotten chapter in human history, or clever fabrications born in the shadows of controversy, they serve one undeniable role. They challenge us to confront the limits of our knowledge. Standing before them, one cannot help but ask, what stories remain untold beneath the Peruvian soil? If these figures are genuine, who were they? And what place did they hold in the lives of the Nazca? If they are not, then why were they made, and what truth lies hidden within the deception? In the end, the desert offers no answers, only silence. And in that silence lingers a haunting possibility, that the greatest mysteries are not those we solve, but those that continue to elude us. What else might still lie waiting, just beneath the shifting sands of Nazca?